As Sanai, you're being tended to by Torkagana and Ibuka as you have this last 8 days or so, as they've tended to your burns and like cut away the worst of like the singed hair, done their best. And you can see reflected back at you in like the burnished copper pot you use as a mirror, the change in your appearance, though blurred by the sheen and veer of the metal, as they like cut and braid and sing and gossip, and try and foster some mirth in you that seems to have been pervasive since your elders left on their raids, as per their oath to Olon, the smiling Dalat. And so far, things have gone well. For you here, it's been peaceful, and the mares have been foaling, and more people have slowly trickled into the camp, swelling its numbers slightly, though not enough to the liking of your brothers, maybe not to yourself. And Tokogana will grab your face in both hands and turn you to look at her and inspect her handiwork, what braids that she can salvage twisted around to bun at the back, while the shaved close to the scalp other parts, in contrast to it, leaving some space for the wounds to heal as she applies some stinging unguent, tisking your winces of pain, and just being soft and caring. And then she'll take her hands from your face and you look back to the pot, and they gossip over the top of you. One laughs at the other at their own kind of talk. And smiling at you, they will ask, is there anything else, Kana?
No. Thank you, as always. Perhaps you could check to the falls.
They both nod and rise up and move backwards towards the opening of your gur, and like go to open it and leave without putting their back to you. When they stop in their tracks and pull back, and you can hear the sounds of someone rushing up towards your gur, and like heavy breath of someone breathing hard. And Tokogana and like says aghast, "Jegu," to the young warrior who like strides in, unceremonious and blustering, when usually he would be stuttering and blushing when in the presence of Ibuka. "Oh, my Kana, apologies, but your brother calls for you, most dire. One of the mares, she's falling badly and like to lose both."
Take me to him.
"I will." And he'll turn, and as soon as you like exit the gur, he will like break into a pretty swift jog, jumping over like campfires or like over logs or tethered animals or goats or chickens, to send them flying as he like rushes, like looking over his shoulder every so often to see that you and your ladies are like, rushing to keep with him. And he'll take you down through the camp to like a small gully where lots of the mares are being kept, where they can be easily watched by a couple of the camp members. Karan, you're down in this gully with Katota, one of the women you took from a Zamagiti raid, and Geren, Dash's younger brother, both struggling with this lowing mare, and she screams every so often. Geren wipes the sweat from his forehead, shaking his head from side to side, like make his mind made up. Katota like nimbly moves about the struggling mare, prodding and poking and trying to comfort the thing and ascertain what can be done. And you have been at many instances of this, maybe 5 or 6 years of experience in things like this with Yargai and your time at the Naican. And maybe you've seen other older men in similar situations as this, but you've never been in this particular situation yourself. And I guess you'd be somewhat relieved when you can turn to see Jego, who you sent to bring Sane, who is wise with horses, to come from her gur down here to the Birthing Gully.
Kadan, what is the trouble? Guys, if you're talking, you're muted.
Gillen, get out of the way and let Sanai in. She has a gift with horses, and this one has a special relationship with her. Sanai, act quickly and calm it. We've tried to help it, but it's got agitated and excited. Kadan is actually Kadan. You can see he's lying. He's propped up against a stone, and he's been kicked in the chest, and there's a little bit of blood dripping out of his mouth from where he's been kicked by the horse when he was. You guess he was trying to help, but his hand didn't help.
Sarna will move to the horse's head and try and put her hands over the nose of it, stroking along the fetlock and down the muzzle.
Can I get this will be the first of the skill challenge, an animal handling check to interact safely with the mare?
The mare's too wild-eyed and agitated for Sarnai to soothe it.
Yeah, despite your efforts, she's in too much distress, and it proves dangerous, potentially dangerous to interact with the mare at this time. Though still close enough, you can see the awkward shapes and the distended side of her belly, and that it's obvious that she has been in her labor for quite some time. And Kotota, whom you know to be like a woman brought up around horses, she is at a loss. But to know more, you would need to roll dice.
Yeah, I'll roll perhaps acrobatics to try and avoid the thrashing of the horse and see if I can get in to hold her a bit more still.
Sure. Roll an acrobatics check. DC 15.
Oh yeah. Well past.
Okay,
18 on the
so
die.
she strikes out with one hoof, but you like step aside from it and then move in to like feel over her before she like rolls and like bites and neighs and shrieks in pain. Can I get a medicine check, please?
$13.
Yeah, you're not sure exactly what the issue could be. You think maybe that the foal is dead inside her already, or is perhaps like turned in the womb, and so like will be unable to be born, like in a conventional manner. But you could not be certain, and you would not be able to like investigate to a certainty, given the current state of the animal and the previous failed checks.
Karen pulls himself to his feet and takes his bow, which is unstrung, and from behind him, in a move you've seen thousands upon thousands of times, and you've done yourself, he slots it diagonally between his legs, hooking the end of it around the soft part of his shin. Then he bends back with his thigh, twisting it round so he loops it into a bow. You can see him straining with effort as he ties the string onto one end and then reaches and with an effort ties it onto the other to get it taut. And then, having strung his bow, he levels it at the horse's head. Do we condemn it as meat? I say. Just your word, Sanai.
Not yet. I will try and right the foal. I've done it on a goat. And I'm going to try and like reach in and feel for the foal's head and see if I can force it around. I don't know if that's going to be athletics or.
Yep. It's going to be an acrobatics check to avoid the horse in her maddened state, and then an athletics check to turn the foal.
I'll hand the bow to Gelen and try and just use my strength to sort of hold it in a position. I mean, when I say my strength, just try and force it down to onto its knees, onto its fetlocks, so it can't get the full power, and it's sort of held in position so it can't move whilst Sana is working behind it.
Sure. So, Taylor, you can roll an acrobatics and an athletics, both DC 15, and Caius, you can roll an athletics DC 15. And if you succeed, Caius, you'll give Taylor advantage on her athletics check.
So let's first see if I'm able to act, or the pain overtakes me. No, I'm able. This time my ribs allow me to act. And did you say athletics?
That's right.
Yeah, I get a 19.
Yeah, so you can assist Sanai. How'd you go on your acrobatics check, Sanai?
The acrobatics was a 16 on the die. I forgot to check my modifier. That's 18
Cool.
total. And you said athletics will be with advantage?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, a 19 and a 15 on the die, which brings it to 24.
Okay. So you're able to like dart in despite the threat of the situation and begin to turn the foal around, much to the mare's distress. And like the birth now, the birth process quickens at your intervention, while Gelen waits, witnessing in near shock. And Katota will burst into action with you, Karan, like helping to hold the mare down and like make Sana as safe as possible. And over the next like half hour to hour, the foal will begin to come with your assistance. I'm going to need a final check of survival from someone to care for the mare and the foal after it's born.
Go for it, Caius.
Then, yep. Survival, did you say?
That's right.
No.
Yeah, wincing in pain from your racked ribs. You were there, but like getting in the way sometimes rather than actually assisting, and like pulling the foal free hurts you such that you're winded again when the mare like strikes out, clipping your knee. And yeah, the thing is laborious and takes over the hour. Okay, so by the end of this, 1, 2, 3, 1. That means the foal, from like the state and trauma it suffered during the birth, despite that, stands after a while as you kind of titter and care about it. And the mare like screams and in blood loss like slowly begins to wane before growing one, sorry, before like going unconscious, and then her breathing like rattles out and she'll die, leaving the foal orphaned but alive, given the results of that skill encounter. And the thing like slick and unsteady will jaunt around like calling out unanswered.
Sarna is much exhausted from the effort and sits back and looks with sadness at the orphaned foal.
While Kadan, with a stony face, gets his dagger out and starts skinning and butchering the horse, salting the meat. Nothing is wasted.
It'd be while. Oh, sorry, you go.
Well, actually, instructing. What's Gellen's brother, the dumb one, called?
Dash. He's not here at the moment. He's frightened of horses giving birth.
We can't. I'll have him confront his fear. I'll tell Gellen to bring Dash, and we'll start butchering the horse together. I'll instruct them on butchering it, but I'll be tired from the ordeal, and just be giving them commands and instructions on which bits to cut and how to carefully cut, instructing them how to cut off the skin, to make useful leather, how to cut meat, etc.
Garen's an older man, middle-aged man, so he's well skilled in this and can go to the butchery with you, and even without your assistance, begin to slaughter the carcass. He'll send one of the younger folk to go off and find Dash, who's at his work beyond here with the goats. They'd both be running back. The person who'd gone to fetch Dash would have been met by him halfway, and so run back with him, perturbed by the state of the man, who seems quite in distress, and he's mumbling and whistling and screeching as he does when he's frightened, as he lumbers up into view of the birth gully, sweaty and heaving, and he's jittering, oh, Garen, and going on in his secret language that he has, and Garen will go from his red work over with your supervision, Kadan, and rush towards his brother. And he knows the secret language that Dash kind of mumbles in, or bird calls in. But he'll look back to you as Dash is gibbering. There are men, Kana and Khan. 3 men. Warriors, he says, looking back this time with fright in his eyes. They bear swords. Dash saw them, he says, and then looks back to Dash, and he's and points over in a direction beyond near where the goats were tethered, beyond the worst of the marmot holes. And then he would relay that back over to you guys.
How far, and can he say how far, or did he recognize the tribe?
He doesn't recognize the tribe, says Garen ruefully. And close enough, I'd say, that my brother's seen them.
Exhaustedly, he'll put his foot in the stirrup and swing up onto a horse, and wait for the Kana to lead the way.
Sarna is wiping herself off with a rough cloth as best she can, but having heard this message from Dash, she'll swing into the saddle behind you on her own horse. Do we send men? Do we go ourselves?
Let's leave this. Let's leave them to deal with this meat, and let's see what these riders want.
We should take someone else with us. 3 against 3. That would not be outnumbered.
Jegu, who's the young warrior trying to impress Ibuka, the older courtesan, will puff up his chest and go to stand next to you. I will fetch my horse, Kana. And then Garen looks to you. Doesn't say anything, not wanting to shame the younger warrior, giving you at least 2 options between the young man, the middle-aged man, and the gibbering mute.
Maybe if we need somebody, Jegu, you're we do not doubt your strength in combat, but we need wisdom and experience here. Send for Alkai, is it the smith?
Arslan and his son Ozan, they are north raiding with your brothers, Khan.
Garen, come with us.
Aye, Kana, and he'll run off from here to fetch his horse and fall in with you within a minute or so. riding up, whipping his horse on either side with the reins, and the three of you can move to intercept these riders that Dash has spotted. Meanwhile, far to the north, half a dozen men and women lay slain around you or in the process of dying, struck through with arrows or opened up by your blades. Teneka, Chulun, Osun, and his father finish with one of the men gutting him and kicking him down, while before the two of you stands a guy probably Kadan's age or maybe a little older. It's hard to tell. He's much flecked with blood. He's got an arrow in him, though still he grips his father's sword, which is a heavy, like chopping falchion kind of thing, in his two hands before him, and sported through the chest piece of like his leather deal. There are like reindeer antlers poking through at either side, which is custom of some of these Zemagero warriors. He's probably like a young brave, prospective brave. He stands there despite the odds, and to his credit, is courageous in the face of what is certain death. Both of you, like breath heaving and blood slickened yourselves, stand before him as arbiters of that fate. And there's a from the man fighting Arson and his son as he collapses. You can hear the horses behind you whinnying.
Children looks to Teneka as to what to do.
Oh, you can see there's a look of almost pride that at least this enemy is willing to go out fighting, despite the fact he is a Zamagodi and he is going to die here. He'll give you a grim nod and start to move counter around this brave young man, essentially indicating that you also move in the opposite direction. You cannot keep an eye on both of us.
Yeah, Children will like loudly crack his knuckles, something that he's like perfected over his many years of punching things. They crack loudly, and now he like does it when he's nervous, but also to intimidate. And he'll say to the youth, "You can die well. You don't have to spill your blood. You've done very well. Better than you should have, probably."
One of you two are the ones who slew his father. Which one would that have been?
I reckon Chulun's the killer.
Yeah, then as you say the words, he eyes you balefully and exposes his back fully to your brother and gives and with last vestiges of strength will rush forward with like a lumberjack's hack overhead swing, which is easy to predict, feint and shift from yourself, while Teneka can deliver the lethal and needful blow to the back of the youth. His like rage spurring him on to foolishness in his final moments, and he's cut down like the others.
I think when he went to swing for Chulun would have like stepped out of the side or to the side, and then like the splat of the blood would have like soaked Chulun, who like up to this point in the battle hadn't become blood soaked, which like he's not so keen on. He'll like look at Teneka, this sort of like withering look of like he couldn't have made that cleaner.
Try as he might to hide that there is the corner of his mouth kind of rises up, seeing this baleful look from his brother. And then he'll look down at the boy and give a nod, pulling the blade free, possibly sending up a few more flicks towards Chulun.
Yeah, he'll like rub some of the blood from around his eye and like flick it back at you. Good boy. But enemies are enemies. We need men, though. And I don't know where you get them. Where did Yargai get all of the warriors?
reputation, I believe. At least if the stories we were told were true.
Reputation is good, but when they come and there's 10 of them and there's only 4 of us, and he shrugs at that. We need to start getting more warriors quicker, and I don't really know how to do that.
And does Amagodi have many enemies? They have misplaced many. No. There will be some looking for a new home, a new tribe.
Our enemy's enemy is not always... doesn't always make for a good tribes member. We need people we can count on.
And what would you suggest?
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm just talking. You're the wise Khan. You have the answers. I just look big.
But you do it well.
And he'll grin and he'll like thump his chest with his fist. What if we find men like this boy, people who seem worthy, what if we offer them a chance to fight me, wrestle me, and if they beat me, they can go free. And if they don't beat me, then they join our tribe and they swear to serve.
You yourself spoke of loyalty.
A fair chance, I suppose, at least. And it gives them a better chance than simply getting killed. Would I take it? Probably not. But there are not many wolves in these hills.
Certainly would be nice to see a young man such as this live his days out as a warrior rather than rot as a corpse.
There are too many dead young men. And many of them are our enemies only because they live in this place as opposed to in the place that we live. There's no real difference. There are wolves and there's everyone else. What makes a Zamagadi somehow less of a warrior than a snowcat?
While Ozan, Arslan's son, is off catching their horses that were scattered by this like ambush and slaughter, his father, who's a keen eye for like metalware and smithcraft, will like pore over the battlefield while you guys have this grim discussion over the corpse of this valiant youth. After like he notes like a lull in your discussion, he'll like figure to approach my Khans. Look at this, if you will. And he'll like pull up 2 of the falchions recovered from this field. They're a pretty decent craft, even to your untrained eyes. Like, you're not blacksmiths, but you're familiar with weapons, certainly. They're strong, sturdy things and well enough balance and a good amount of metal. And a weapon for outriders such as these, or like grazing herdsmen such as these to sport. And even when you guys might miss it, he notes the brands of just above the hilt in like the middle of like the leaf blade, and pointed out to you, and it's in no kind of script or glyph that any of you would recognize. But Arslan says, this is shall make these things. Perhaps they recovered these fine weapons from Shao they've killed. Or perhaps not. Either way, This is no craft of the people, or he would say the Toygan, the people.
Would we
I'll
know?
hand one over each of you to inspect. It's like mechanically a long sword. But yeah, it appears like a curved falchion, like a chopping sword that's ideal from horseback in one hand or in two hands on foot.
Would we know? Do the Shao like? Is this familiar to us that the Shao would like arm some tribes and not others in the hopes that we fight each other? Is that something that like? Because I know that's like a historical thing, but is that something that like Yargai would have told us and like would be in the stories of people or?
Yeah, I think Yargai would have mentioned it to you guys. His distrust and distaste of the Shao and their like pitiful, like diplomatic ways of securing their will upon regions, and that some of those including shifting wealth and weapons to certain tribes to dictate the balance of power in fractured lands such as the Hordelands, where you and all of your varying nomad khans exist. That was one of the proponents for the Great Khan uniting the hordes, bleaching their banners, and trying to overthrow Shao dominion in this realm to some success until his death and subsequent collapse of that. And certainly you would suspect that it goes on now in lieu of that as it did beforehand.
Mm.
And that, yeah, like Aslan suspects this was either given to them or they raided it off Shao. You think it could be possible that it was given to them by Shao?
And Al Reed had Shao money as well, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Though same with that situation, he could have been given that or could have honestly come by. Honestly, by yeah.
Well, Chillin will say,
like it's another niggle.
Certainly, yeah, he would say as much to Teneka that it seems unusual. All this Shao money, all these Shao blades, trying to keep us fighting each other.
Unusual, but an opportunity, perhaps, to open people's eyes if this is the case. An excuse to unite. A reason to unite.
Or, now that we have been dealing with the Zamagati, the Shah give us money and they give us fine steel and they give us whatever they have. And then we're powerful.
And Khan, then the Shah will give weapons and money to a smaller Khan to make them powerful to counter us. It is their way. We are pieces on the Chisi board to them, Khan.
I'm wary of outsiders meddling with our people.
I don't like it either. I think the Shah are cowards. But if they're going to be shoving weapons and horses and money here, then we should have it and no one else.
That is certainly something to consider.
Osun gives a whistle and a yip beyond what he normally would, like when riding fast, to alert you as he hurls in at speed. He's not even leading or calling any of the other horses that he's gathered to follow him. Khan, Khan, he calls, and you can hear leaving the questions unanswered. He points over his shoulder. A rider, a rider! He'll thunder in where you guys are in amongst the slain, and once you've mounted and ridden to a nearby or cantered up a nearby ridge, he'll point, and it will not take you long to see what he has seen. There's a rider careening across the plain, riding south, leaving a a trail of dust to like arc up triangularly behind him. What's your passive perceptions?
15.
14.
15. Teneka, you see that there's an arrow that's sprouted from the man's back. Although from here, neither of you, nor Ozan, nor Aslan, who comes up last, would recognize the man. To notice any more, you'd need to roll a perception check. The time of day is early afternoon, when the sun's just at an hour or two after noon. So there's the glare from one way and casting shadows toward the other.
Yeah, I'll say out loud. See how the rider sits in the saddle, slumps as though injured, and I'll maneuver my horse to try and do that perception check if possible.
Sure, go for it.
That's a good start. It's a natural one.
It's warding you. Put your hand up to ward off the glare. You like level your eyes and discern the rider as best you can from up on mount on top of this ridge here. It's your brother and followers. You watch for like some time, and soon you see several other riders like emerge from like the rise and fall of a hill below, in pursuit of him. But given the distance and the glare, you cannot discern the identity of either pursuers or pursued. And by now it seems that Ozan has seen that too, because he turns to you and says, "What do we do, my Khan?"
This is Zamagoti territory we're in, yeah?
Yep, the southern reach of their territory. It's not traditionally their territory, but from what like you guys have heard from scouts you've interrogated or like seen with your own eyes through reconnaissance, this is like close to where their like nomadic camps are centered. You're south of their position.
So I guess it'd be fair to assume that the pursuing riders would probably they would be the pursuing riders. I'll give a look to Cholon. To can probably read his twins' thoughts. Teneka's of mind to intercept the lone rider.
Yeah, he would he'd give a look, and I guess he wouldn't even be looking at you. He'd be looking for where his horse is.
Yeah, you can give a whistle through your teeth and the horse will like trot up to you obediently.
Yeah, sort of preempting, I think, what Teneka is going to say. He would just like, and then give a look to Teneka.
We'll make for the rider. I'll look behind me at the riders that we have. How many?
And his son Ozan too.
2. Nah, we're better sticking together and yeah, I'll direct them to follow us as I wait for Sean to get in the saddle, and he's probably, I imagine, starts off before Teneka's even finished giving the orders, and then Teneka will rush to catch up.
So is your intent to ride together to cut off the shot man fleeing?
Yes.
And like beeline for him? Okay. You can do so. By the time you get close to him, you would become visible to him, and by the sound of it, the pursuers who like yip and call and like spread out further in their line, five long. You can see now that you've bolted towards the pursued, that the pursuers at least are Zamagedi, because 2 of them sport antlers coming out the front of either side of their the shoulder of their leather deals or from their armored caps, as is their wont. Well, the Zamagedi are the reindeer, as far as like the Naican are the wolves, is their like token or animistic token. And they yip and call, and a few arrows fly wildly wide or or short. From where he is, he looks like fearful to you. He's like sweaty, muddy, and dusty. And yeah, there's an arrow spread at his back. There's one in the right side rump of his horse that you notice now growing closer. You do not recognize him or know him, given what he wears. He just has got like a leather deal. He's weaponless, no cap, and his like hair is shaved at the front and then long and unbound at the back.
Hmm. Well, the Zamagiri are our enemies, and this man maybe knows something. Maybe he's a warrior. I guess Chillin will like knock an arrow and like look to Teneka.
Yeah, he'll join you in knocking an arrow, and as the look passes back and forth with a nod. I guess we'll wait for him to get a little bit closer, and well, this rider's horse is injured, so I'll bark out for the rider to. If you want to live, get on the back of that horse and nod towards one of the riders, one of our men.
His eyes will go wide and he'll do like a double take and then like hurt his horse in the reefing of it towards you. Oh, Tanaka, come Tanaka. I come from Olun, he says, and then like an arrow goes and whooshes past his head into the earth behind him. I must a message as he like gets down from his own wounded horse. It like stops now, pouring over to the back to try and nuzzle at where the arrow's embedded into its rump, but not being able to reach it. And he'll rush forward and give like a swift bow towards you, a painful one, before going to like one of the offered horses. Arslan will reach a hand down to help the man up onto it. And he goes to speak before like another arrow like flies and thumps near one of the nervous mounts you've acquired from the raid that you just did. Mm-hmm. And like sends it to bolt and Ozan to curse and draw his blade. And you look back to where the arrow came from. And these 5 riders show no signs of slowing down. And they'll ride up well into bow range, fanning out and call out, you, strangers, account for your presence in Zamagidi lands, and let free that criminal.
Join, shall we hold our account? And he'll raise his bow and let fire an arrow at the one that spoke.
Oh!
Okay, in that case, it's going to be roll initiative because they're prepared to fight you if you do not submit. So when you draw your bow to like fire at them, it's roll initiative. So seeing you raise your bow and not calling out to him, the man will give like a yip, yip, and like kick into his heels into his horse and charge forward, quickly closing the ground between you and he. He'll stand up in the stirrups and let fly an arrow as he like hurtles towards you, Teneka, for a 21 to hit. And you'll take 4 piercing damage as he wings you in the shoulder. And then he'll like drop the bow into a loop in his saddle as he drops back down into the stirrups, sitting now. And will draw a curved blade from his side as he rushes in to engage you in melee. That will be all for his turn. Cannot actually make the attack. The youth that was behind him to his right yips in response and will level his spear in 2 hands, leaving the reins unslung and guiding the horse beneath him with his knees as he'll try and ride you down, Chulun. But you see the strike coming can veer your horse wide from the youth's ill-timed strike, and it's your turn to react as he engages you in melee.
Okay, so I'm gonna lash out the bow like in my hand and try and punch him in the mouth first. And that will almost certainly hit 14 on the die, and that's like +7. Yeah, +7, so 21 to hit.
Yep.
Okay, and that will be 8 bludgeoning, and he needs to make a con save.
12.
Excellent, he is stunned until the, I think it's the end of my next turn.
Can you roll a d10 as well for system shock? You nearly kill him outright.
Oh, wow, okay. 3.
Yeah, he's stunned until the end of his next turn, but he's already stunned.
Okay. Bummer. Okay. Yep. So he'll boom, crack out with the bow. I guess I better kill this guy before he wakes up. And then I'll strike at him again. Do I have advantage if he's stunned? I think so.
Yes, you do. Yep. I think so.
Yeah, 17 on the die that time, which is even more. And that'll be 7 damage.
Yeah, stunned, you like reach out with a bear grip and wrap your elbow around him, and Reef cracking his neck, and he falls down, spilling out of the saddle.
I will then kick my horse forward and try and ride to whoever is closest. Actually, I'll go to whoever is rushed to Teneka, and then I'm going to try and...
Yeah, that'll be the man with the reindeer antlers sporting out the side of his armor, who'd like attacked at Chulun, who'd spoken for the group.
Okay, perfect. So then I will use Flurry of Blows to make 2 attacks. So first one is 20, way more than 20.
Yes. 16 is his AC with the armor.
Okay. Second one is exactly 16, so then only 2 hits. My accuracy is so high as a monk, I'm not used to it at all. So it's 9 plus 8, so that's... sorry, it's 10 damage for the first and 7 for the second.
Yeah, he like an uncomfortable crack. With the second strike, the man, his nose is broken and blood sheets out over his face and chest. He's bloodied from your onslaught as you like intervene on his assault at your brother.
Excellent.
The Outriders will like charge in behind Dogshin and swamp yourself and Teneka. So you'll cop 2 riders, Chulun, and another will like ignore you to like veer in at Teneka.
Okay.
So they'll use... Actually, no, technically they would fire first and then engage you in melee, but they just can't make the attacks. Same as Dogshin did. So the one arrow flies wide at you, Chulun. The other, they will strike you in the back, I think, for 22 all up.
It will hit.
Okay.
Hang on. I have the catch arrow ability. Let me just see how that works.
Mm-hmm. Oh, rad.
Yeah. Okay, so I can reduce the damage by 1d10 plus dex plus my monk level, so I certainly will do that.
Okay. So the damage I rolled is 6 piercing damage all up.
Okay. Oh, I already reduced it to 0, even if I roll a 1. Yeah. So I reduced it to 0, which means that I can catch the missile and throw it back.
Nice.
So
Let's say for my immersion that he fires the arrow, you catch it, and then when he engages you in melee, you drive into him.
Yeah. For sure. That's a 19 on the die for the hit, which will certainly hit. And is it a d6, right? Oh, it's a monk attack. Okay, so it'll be 8 damage.
Okay. Roll a d10, please.
Jesus. A 6.
Loses his reaction and has disadvantage on attacks until the end of his next turn. As you like drive the arrow tip up under his fur cap, below his ear, in the side of his neck. The other 2 one will fire. Oh no, that was the second one who fired at you, Chulun. So 2 have engaged you now, dropping their bows and withdrawing axes or curved swords. And the third one will ride around, hemming in at you, Teneka, for a 15 to hit all up. I don't know if that hits you or not.
That's just a miss.
Yeah, so an arrow like passes your head until they engage you. Ozen and Arslan will rush forward and being closest to you, Teneka, and as you their Khan, they will like rush to intervene to you. They can't get to Dogshin given the press, but can at the Outriders. So we'll gang up as like the father-son double team. This guy, they'll flank him and try and spear him. Arzon is old and his attacks are easily weared by the rider. The Ozan goes in behind and slashes him deeply across the back for a 17 to hit. Does 8. which will system shock that guy, and he will be stunned. So the third outrider who's attacking you, Teneka, is bloodied and stunned after your warriors like ride in to join you and your brother. Dogshin now will need to cut his way out. So we'll draw a knife in his other hand. So he's got the blade in one, dagger in the other, and try and cut through you, Teneka, to get out. So it's nearly a crit on the first for a 19 on the die. And then with the dagger will be a 17 all up.
17 will do it.
Okay, so all up, you're going to take 9 slashing and piercing damage. From Dogshin, and then he'll stay right where he is, not wanting to provoke. Youth behind him, his neck is broken, so he stares up at the afternoon sun, unseeing. Chulon, you're next to act.
Did
Sorry?
I get skipped?
Sorry?
Did I get skipped there?
Oh, sorry, yeah, you did. I went straight to
Oh,
Aslan after the Outriders. Yeah, your turn.
It's all good. No, because that if we keep it going the way it is, that places me next to Dogshin, which is right where I want to be, basically. So I'll take the sword my father had commissioned that was gifted or else returned, and I'll slice out at him for an 18 and a 21.
Both hit.
And it'll be an 8 on the first, a 9 on the second, and he's already injured.
17 and 17. He is slain.
He is
by
slain.
more than 2. Yeah, so the wolf blade like cuts through a crisscross at his chest, and at awkward angles, blood spurts from his mouth, and he falls back in the saddle, away from life. And now it's Chulon's turn, unless you're doing anything further, my Khan.
No. I'm good.
Okay. Stay where you are, engaged with that outrider.
I'll begin battering men and breaking faces as quickly as I can. So
2 men at you: a swordsman who is bloodied, who you'd injured grievously, and then the other one to your left, which has an axe. Swordsman and an axeman.
So I will basically like draw the arrow that I'm holding in my hand like back across the side of that guy's skull, and then try to like cut out his eye with it. For an 18 on the die, so certainly a hit. That'll be 7 damage.
He's grievous wounded, nearly slain.
Then I will hit him again for only a 12 on the die, so plus 7 is 19.
And he'll hit. He's on 1 hit point, so that attack will kill him.
Yep. So I'll drag the arrow back across his skull and like cut the side of his eye, and then when he's like, I'll shove it up under his throat. And then I will spend a key point due flurry of blows to punch through the guy twice as well.
Okay. This guy's unharmed.
So a 12, which will certainly miss, and a 20 something very high.
Yes.
For 9 damage.
Roll d10, please.
A 1.
Yeah, you drive the arrow up through his Adam's apple. It spurts out the other side at a horrendous angle, and he'll drop spasming from the saddle, and his horse will continue on at its rush past you. The last one, he's going to make a morale check, I think. A crit. He will fight on bravely, sensing or certainly like knowing that this is it for him, and it's all gone horribly wrong. Will not shame his ancestors. Will fight on bravely, at least for now. That will be against you, Teneka, who is his foe, for a 16 all up to hit.
That's a magic number.
Okay, you're going to take 9 slashing damage. And then it's your turn. Oh, sorry, no, take that 9 off. He is stunned.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My bad. So you didn't take that 9 damage. He just stands there bravely trying to hold on to his blade. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, with a flick of the blood from the sword, he'll raise it again and strike in at the stunned man. You've 2 hits, I would imagine. 22 and a natural 20.
They describe his fate.
It severs the flesh with a sweeping strike, opening up a pouring bloody wound, from which peeks the yellow of fat and the white of bone moments before he falls from his horse.
Yeah, the last of these Zamagiri pursuers are butchered. Arslan and Ozen will dismount, or one of them will dismount, the older man maybe, to pour over the slain, while the younger gathers up even more horses to the loose herd you've stolen or acquired. One of the Zamagiri men groans before his throat is slit by Ozen, pours over the man and will reef any trinkets of worth off him.
What's the news?
Yeah, going back over to the men, amongst what horses hadn't kind of skidded from the violence here, you see the messenger slumped down on the ground at a painful kind of face first position. The arrow protruding up through his back, dismounting and going up to him. You see he's still conscious, but has lost quite a lot of blood under his deal. You can see gingerly pulling it aside. Perhaps he could be saved, but you'd need healers and a space at the camp, not out here in the Zamagiri territory.
We've gained a lot. He came here desperate. Something must be back at camp. Something important.
Agreed. We should make haste.
Yeah, children will whistle a few times then and gather everybody and all the horses that we can and begin galloping back to camp.
Back at the camp, you rode up toward the three men, Sanai and Karandan, with Garen in tow. Neither of them draw any weapons or make any untoward motions as they easily see you approaching them as they make their way, trotting in a loose line, not trotting, sorry, just walking along in a loose line towards your camp. By now, several people have stood up on the birthing ridge or further back where the Khan's Gur is to look down upon this, fearing the outcome of it. These men you can see from a distance, one sports lamellar and the other two sport ring mail, and seem to earn by their status the blades they sport at their sides. Could I get a perception check from both of you, Karan Dan and Sanai?
14.
11.
You recognize them as Toygan Sanai. For a 14, you remember some long weeks back upon the road with that road folk worm named Volchi and his retinue. You recognize one of the men, the one in Lemelar, from his retinue. As they come close, probably 30 feet or so from your horses to put theirs to a stop, these three middle-aged men with long braided mustachios and a motley Toygan assembly of garb ride up and then go to a stop. And the foremost will take a few steps forward on his mount and bow in the saddle towards the three of you. Hail! I am Bayantu, this Ogelai, and Koridai, he points to the man on his right. We have come to seek the Khan of Wolves. I mark you as his sister, and remember his words to you on the road. And he'll nod his head.
You have found the wolves. For what purpose do you seek my brother?
We would speak with him and swear him our swords if he will make us wolves and Teugen again.
Why?
They all kind of look down a bit shamefaced at this. We have forgotten our ways and served Volchi for Shao coin and jewels and women. We have not followed the Sky Father's path. And work now for the road folk seems wrong after we saw the Khan of Wolves last span, and you'd remember that well. And these men know that their master insulted your own because they understood some of his talk, so they're slightly uncomfortable. We have been paid out our last season for him and asked for his bidding to find other work. And he scorned us for this and called us near treacherous and promised us no work with him or his ilk again. So it is no small measure that we come to seek the one they call Teneka. They say he offers horses and gur and the prospect of wives to warriors who would become wolves.
He does. There is much work to be had here.
Though not all the Teugen alike of us under Volchi were stirred by this prospect. We three would if he'd have us. We are proven warriors all, and worthy men.
It takes more than a boast to prove a warrior in the Wolf Ordo. Choose a champion and prove yourself against one of our warriors to show that you are worthy. If not, you can join as children until you are trained to a level of prowess good enough to sit on a saddle as a warrior of the wolves.
Bayantu gives like a smile at this, at like the wolfishness of Karandan. He seems to take it well. Ogele, though, is silent and just frowns. Korodai looks dour and dark and cannot help but speak. And looking around from left to right in his saddle and sees, I see no warriors or champions.
The children of wolves can defeat the warriors of other tribes. The women can.
I am Kana. I will be champion.
I would wrestle the woman, says Korodai, with like a grin that's inappropriate, you'd think, Kadan.
You may regret that. You may regret that boast, says Kadan.
He looks like this is most preposterous, that he should have to wrestle a woman to be allowed to become one of the wolves and like have a wife and horses here. And he'll give like a and look to Bayantu as if to say like he wants an explanation from this. And Bayantu will just shrug and look back to you, Sanai, seeking for confirmation that you're serious.
Sarnai crosses her arms. What is your choice?
Bayantu saves the man and says, I would not befoul my relations with the Khan by deigning to touch his sister. In some Urdus, this is a mortal sin.
Then you shall...
In our Urdu, it is but a mortal mistake, not a mortal sin.
Very well, enough of this, says Cordu, and he'll like swing down from the saddle with a and like take off his weapon belt and unstring his arrows and like hook it up onto his horse, which stays near as still as a statue. Well, his master does this, and last of all, he'll take off his reeking hide cap, like place it there, and you can see that he's got like a long fringe like a Brazilian soccer player, but then shaved all the way around at the back, except for a single braided rat's tail, which disappears into a coil into his leather cuirass. And he'll step forward to you, Sanai, with like a grin on his face, taking off the last vestiges of the leather deal, and then put himself into a fighter's stance. Ogile and Bayantu look uneasy at this, fearing what may come.
Sarnai will dismount, set her things carefully upon the horse, and nod to Kadan. And as she begins to walk towards this man, oh, go ahead.
Very quietly, he says, "Don't lose any eyebrows."
With her back to the men, she sticks her tongue out at him. Knowing full well that the two she has are drawn on with charcoal since they have not grown back yet.
Don't let him smudge them, I say, trying to see if I can get your rage going before you even join the fight.
She sighs a little in frustration at the immaturity of her brother, but recognizes his tactic even so. She'll turn to face the man, and remembering much of what Teneka and particularly Chulun have taught her, she will take her stance.
Very well. A wrestling match it is. The best of 5. Roll your first athletics check. Counter to his. 21.
Are you raging?
Yes, that will be my first thing, is to bonus action rage.
So it's a
it is actually with advantage. That's a 23.
Yeah, so you collide, rushing into each other, and then the wrestle begins. And he underestimates you, your smaller stature and a female, and so it gives you the advantage at the start as you like step in and bring the man low. Ogele gives like a laugh at this. Bayantu finds no mirth in this wrestle, and Corridor gives that look of like, oh, lucky. Again, 20.
He gets me this time.
Yeah, he uses all of his strength and inwardly realizes that it took quite an exert to bring you low that time, which I guess unsettles the pricklish pride of Corridor. Again, 14. But you've learnt his style this time.
Yeah, nearly a crit. It's a 24.
Yeah, it sets him down into the grass, and Ogele can't help himself at this time and laughs at Corridor's pride and now being brought low by a woman. And Bayantu, if anything, just seems to look even more uneasy. And Garen puts his hands on his hips and smiles broadly, proud that his Khan's sister is such a mighty foeman, even at like a wrestle. The man will like stand up and dust off the dirt from his gur and give like a bull's roar and charge forth for a 23 this time.
Dang, I like my green dice is rolling very well. 24 again, 19 again.
And you step aside and trip the man, and then quickly rush over behind him and leap onto his back and pin one of his arms back behind him, such that a groan that you summon from him turns into like a scream of pain, and he's forced to slap the earth with his other hand. And Gole is like hacking in the saddle at this, and Garen's beaming as you like step off your prey. He looks much humbled. At this, Bayantu's dour look relaxes, and he looks like thank fuck he didn't hurt her.
You proved yourself as a warrior. You held her once. That's more than most could.
I will admit, she is the victor. Well fought, Kana, says Corridor, though it galls him to do so. And then he gives kind of like a, I'll get you later, Ogele, look over to the laughing man. Biontu says, this display for myself and Ogale is sufficient. We have no need to test ourselves against you, Champion Kana. But still, might I speak with your brothers?
You may in time. For now, be welcome here.
You can. Our brother is the Khan here. He will decide your futures. Pitch your gear at the edge of the camp. You are welcome to share our water and join us in food until the Khan returns to decide that your long-term standing in our tribe. But we will speak well of you.
As you say, my thanks, young Khan, says Biontu, the speaker for the trio. And Corridor, like rubbing his shoulder and like putting it back to place, like get back up with some discomfort into his saddle. Eyeing you, Sane, as he like follows your group into the surrounds of the camp, and they begin to pitch their own gur for the three of them to take in and they tether their horses outside of it. And at the end of the afternoon of 2 days later, the Khan and his followers do return. Ibuka, Tokagana, Agoyu, and the others, young warrior Jagu, Kotoda, and the others of the camp will rush forward and begin to like cry out and sing and hug each other, embrace as like even from here, as they like ride in to the outskirts of the camp, it seems they were much successful. There's like over a dozen horses here, and there's arms and armor and quivers and bows, like loot galore, I guess, for this beleaguered camp in the tow of your two Khan brothers as they ride back into camp. But I guess when they come close, you'd notice the dour looks on them and could not fail to notice either the body, it appears, like a limp man in the saddle that they trail behind them, and no slow gaits in their pace.
Does he live?
He does appear to look to you. Like he looks alive as you like go up to inspect the body of this guy on the horse. And Aslan will say, he lives, lady, but has waned of our passage here the last day and a half. And he'll get down and leave some other followers to take his own horses and go to assist you in taking this wounded messenger off the horse. You can see he's like bone white or like milk white, and there's like a wet heaviness to his deal, which is like soaking through with his blood, and it's all down the side of his horse here. And though they've tourniqueted the wound and like staunched it up as best they can, it does not look good for him.
Torkagana, come, help me.
Yeah, she will, and she'll call for Ogulu, and Ibuka to like boil some water, or like goat's urine, and to bring bandages and bone needles and such.
There doesn't seem to be any hassle, right? Because we've been like legging it here with the thought that this guy had like run to us to tell us something was wrong, but everything seems calm here.
That's right. Yeah.
Although
I think. You go.
I was say, I'm sure Chulun and his sharp eyes would notice the new gear on the edge.
But yeah, it would seem to you, Chulun, like when you come into town, like it's certain that this man was not coming from your camp to tell you guys anything, because it all seems well here.
Yeah. Okay. So where the hell was he coming from?
Karan and Sanai, you guys can give me an investigation check if you wish.
What's this for? What?
On the wounded man to see if you recognize things about him, given that Sanai has him. Okay, yeah, peeling the deal off and like pulling his belongings away from him and such. You notice some trinket that you remember several of those in the Dalat camp sharing like a fondness for a similar thing, like a small carving or or fetish or whatever the thing may be, but it's uniquely Dalat, sorry.
Yeah, she'll kind of hold it in her hand and then a shout towards Teneka. He is Dalat.
One of the smiling cats.
So it
here?
would seem. Where did you find him?
North.
He was,
Sorry.
he was being chased by Zamagiri.
We have had no Dalat riders in camp.
So the smiling cats are in trouble. Not here. And you see, like, he'll roll his eyes, like he's so tired. They've just been riding constantly to get here, and now the thought of having to go to the Dalat, he's like disheartened. He was really hoping to sit down and eat something.
You cannot leave yet. We must know what he has to say.
You know wounds better than we. How long do you think it'll take him to recover?
Nico?
I don't know. Who can know such a thing? You would have to go and care for the man.
Yeah. I cannot say.
Maybe we do not have the time. Maybe we do need to ride.
Ride to where? What if the Dalat are not at their camp? What if there's trouble elsewhere? You would waste time and effort and energy.
Well, now Ibikar and Torkagana have carried the man off into one of the gers and begin to prepare braziers and boil things and such.
Do we know what kind of rough distance the Dalat's camp is from here?
Yeah, several days' ride to the northwest.
Northwest.
How is the grazing going? Is there still grass enough to feed the herds, or do we need to move anyway?
Here, it's been fine enough. It's early to midsummer at the moment, so grazing here in the Marmot Hollows has been fine. But of course, at the end of summer, start of autumn, it will be slim pickings here, and you would have to move on, which is a daunting prospect because the Marmot Hollows, given its name, gives you quite a good defensive position, given that a semicircle around this area is girt with Marmot holes, and so attacking in large mass cavalry here is folly. So a small little Karnite like yourself can nestle in it to a certain degree of safety. But you would have that available to you and good grazing at least for another a couple of weeks or longer.
Let's try and wake the man as quickly as possible and see.
I will go and get some. I'll go and get some worm bark, and we can burn it under his nose and see if that brings him round for at least a little while, and he can say. And he runs out and rides to the tree, and he'll be back in sort of 15-20 minutes.
Yeah. While they're waiting for Kadan to return, Sarnai would speak to Teneka and Shaloon. 3 riders came perhaps 2 nights ago, 2.5. Twigan. They wish to join our Kana.
Teneka will point to the order that's been set up on the boundaries of the camp. This is them.
It is. And at Kadan's suggestion, they have already at least somewhat proven themselves. I won, though.
I'm sure you would tell Teneka the full story, and no doubt it'd be hard for him to suppress a smile, especially at Kadan's talk of joining as pups.
Chilling would be weirded out by like the nature of like they had a conversation about maybe we should wrestle people who want to join, and then this happens separately. He would be weirded out, and he would give Teneka a look, which is like, maybe it's not just you and I who are telepathic.
I think out loud at that, Tanaka would actually just say perhaps, probably leaving Sani a little bit confused as two brothers have this almost psychic conversation. So you bested them.
I bested one, and the other two thought it best not to challenge.
So they have brains?
Well, two of them do.
So at this, Kadan Dan arrives back with the wormwood and can go with Torkagana and Ibika to caring for this messenger. They'll heat things and try and pull the arrowhead out and wash the wound with boiling piss, and then stitch it up with like a bone thread and some sanitized like lines of wool, knit him up, so to speak, and then try the wormwood under his nose to rouse him. And take some time in the putrid gur. And so while that goes on, Bayantu and his two followers, hearing the commotion of the return of the Khan, would by now have made their way up nearby to the Khan's gur, where you guys are dispersing these horses and goods amongst the tribes, or seeing to various businesses, or while the Khan, the three of you standing around talking here, they will approach and wait at a respectful distance.
Yeah, once we're done taking care of everything, I guess we'd probably want to do this inside the tent, so Cholin can at least have a sit down and something to eat while we speak. We'll summon them over. Like earlier, when they spoke to the younger siblings, have them state their case.
As before, Bayantu will introduce himself, Ogele and Corridor, to you. And maybe yourself and or Chulun would recognize them from that day a fortnight or so ago on the road with Volchi and his retinue. And they would give an identical story to what you would have overheard of them speaking with Sanai, that they've served him for some time but grow weary of his constant jibes against their people and the disrespect he shows them. And after seeing yourselves and your conduct and hearing subsequent tales from travellers of the silent wolf and his growing carnate, and that those who join him are called wolves and are given horses and gurs and can marry within the Khan, seems a good prospect to them. And this man who speaks for them is the older of them, probably like pushing 40 or so, and the others in their late 20s. So men and proven warriors certainly all, and if his tale is true, having served Volchi for some time, consummate warriors and employees as well.
I'll say to them, I'll say, you forgot your people once and how weary that would make those in the know. You can become wolves, but it will take time to prove your words are true and your actions favourable. That will not be an easy task, but that is your penance, if you wish it.
He looks between them and they all kind of nod in the way that of like men who have discussed this beforehand. He looks back to you and nods gravely. Or
What tribe were you in before you abandoned?
He points to Ogele. He was Komani. And then to Korodai. He Cassidy. And myself, Tuigan, from Yagodan. He points off to the east, and that's the place that the Great Khan's son ruled in, like a Shao puppet, until his death before your time. The place now is pretty much like a satellite Shao outpost on the outskirts of like the Hordelands. And yeah, like there's many like Tugan of all different sorts who aren't really traditional nomadic animistic people so much anymore. And this is Boyontu with like Lemela armor and the motley assortment of gear that marks him kind of as Tuiganish, but not completely, not wholly. So just a Tuigan, a Cassidy, and a Komani.
Chilun is kind of satisfied enough. He like looks at Teneka. They're warriors. They're not our enemies. They seem genuine.
I agree. So the offer stands.
Tell us what we must do, Khan.
If these have been on the road for as long as they seem to have been, and we recognize them from Volchi's caravan, so they must have traveled some distance and some time, then this Cassidy, he says Kadan, nodding towards, is it Beregai? This Cassidy could not have been in the tribe at the time.
Korodai.
Korodai could not have been in the tribe at the time they murdered our father and our brother. He had no part in their murder, so he is not part of our blood feud.
Korodai nods at like hearing this. Like he's heard of Yargai and of Yargai's death at the hands of the Cassidy. But yeah, he was not there and is thankful for that. He left them sometime before that.
We may have to travel soon to the lands of the Dalat. That can be one of their first tests.
Agreed.
We will be ready when you call us to ride, Khan, says Bayantu for the three. If you will promise us salt and milk and blood, we will promise you steel, he says, invoking the ancient oath.
Of course.
Then they'll all kneel. Ogele and Korodai, who have the small braids that coil down the nape of their neck into their cuirass, will like cut those off to show them severing their ties with their previous vows. And fresh shaved and bowed towards you will become your people.
There was a sign of this. You remember the pregnant mare. She gave birth to a foal, but died. The old ways are dying, and the new ways are coming in strong. This it is a sign, says Kadan. Old ways are dying out, and the new ways are being born.
The new ways will be stronger because they have a foundation in the old ways, though.
So it is, says Kadan, bowing and lowering his head and spitting in the fire. But that was a mighty raid, worthy of Yamon the Golden. You have brought back many prizes, many spoils from your last raid. Oh, how I wish I'd been there. Tell us, he says, sitting back after his meal, ready to hear a story.
Chillin is like filling his mouth with food non-stop, just and like rudely, just like chomping, and then he like stops for a second with like his cheeks full of food and like just gives a look to Kadan and then to Teneka, which is like, I'm eating, you tell him.
I can see you getting fatter as you eat, Chulun.
Which is like some sort of scathing retort, except you can't hear a word of it because his face is full of food.
Just crumbs and spit flying everywhere.
Yep.
Oh, Cholun, you're as bad as a Zamagiri.
I heard about wrestlers in the Chow country who eat as much as they possibly can and are big and fat. Maybe that's the kind of wrestler that Cholun is planning on becoming.
His horse will not be able to carry him if he continues.
He will carry the horse.
You have one to talk, Kadan. You eat twice as much as anyone else.
It's very hard to throw your opponent if he's very heavy. And he taps the side of his head like that's incredibly clever.
I love it.
But it's hard to climb and catch and get an eagle's and get a hunting eagle. It's hard to climb cliffs and get a hunting eagle if you can't reach the cliff because of your belly is so big.
That's why I have a little monkey for a pet brother.
Torkagana will come and break like the silent, somber reverie that those words of climbing an eagles invokes. He has awoken. He's speaking some sense through the delirium, Khans, and she'll bow before you.
You'll go and see what sense he's speaking then.
It's pretty stinky in here in the Girt. It reeks of like wormwood and like that iron tang of blood, boiled urine, and sweat. But this man's like eyes like half like slowly opened and bloodshot, and he gives like a and Dibakar will like step back from him and go to like wash her hands in a pail of pond water. Like washing the blood off it, and you can see like he's been stripped down, and the wound in his back from the arrows has been like stitched up with thread and bone needle, and like the wounds cleaned as best they can. And though he was like still pale, there's more color than when you guys rode him into camp previous. And he'll look up and kind of go to move, but then just like wince and grimace in pain. Oh, Khan Tanaka. I would rise.
With a outstretched forward palm, he'll what's the word I'm looking for? He'll tell them, basically show the man that it's okay, and he'll kneel down, and he'll wait for the strength to come back into him.
My mother named me Darbai Khan. I come to you from Olun called the Smiling, my Khan of the Dalat. He bids me come through enemy territory to tell you that the Zemogidi have ridden west against our people and driven a wedge between us and you, our friends in the south. We cannot now coordinate raids together. Our Khan bewails what has happened now. These defeats drive us out onto the Bergia Plains, Khan. And that he gives like a groan and like a relaxation that he has like somehow, despite all odds, gotten through to relay his message to you.
They have been driven to the plains, but they still fight, yes?
He nods slowly. Though the last great raid, many were killed, and from thence were we driven back, Khan.
And that is Zamagidi numbers.
His like downcast look is enough at that. My Khan feels that cut off from each other, the Zamokidi reindeer will skewer one of us, then the other, once that is done.
That will certainly be their intention. But thanks to you, it may not be the outcome.
He nods, which causes him then to grimace in pain.
You were pursued by a number of the Zamagini.
At Cold Camp one night, I heard them approach and fled, though by the next day's noon they'd found me again and pursued me for all of that day. I owe you my life, Khan, you and your brothers.
Are you aware of any of them returning to their camp with news that the messenger of yourself, the messenger, was spotted?
He shrugs, which causes him to wince in pain, and he says, I do not know. My mind was set to fleeing them, delivering my Khan's words to you, Khan.
Understandable.
Yeah, it is possible, but he can't confirm or not that.
Yeah.
Is here? We were sometime in the Dalat camp. Do we recognize him? Is he somebody his stories are true? I mean, I'm just taking it that they are, but
it's up to you guys. Teneka and Chulun had not recognized the man from the Dalat, though they wouldn't have like met and interacted with every single one of the Dalat. So
I think
maybe you do. If you wish to, then sure, you do.
I'll make a kind of roll just to see if I recognized it. Yeah,
a roll to see how curious you are that you might interact with strangers in the Dalat. You get a natural 20 because you're cut on. So you have.
Yes, I've my result was 24 on my roll, so I'm guessing he is truly of the Dalat. I remember him.
Yeah, you can confirm that, having spied him many times in the camp and heard of Darbai or met him perhaps. Mm-hmm. It's not some Zemagidi ploy.
What will we do, Teneka?
You know us all, so you know from without Kadan needing to say anything that Kadan wants to go, but he's waiting for Tanaka's decision.
A wedge between us would be a blow to both tribes. One would be skewered and then the other. And we cannot allow that to happen. And the Gillette are our allies. They took us in and we owe them. A lower debt had been paid. I still feel we owe them still.
Shall I call every warrior to ready 4 horses, and we'll ride changing horses until we get there and see when we arrive what we can do.
We cannot leave the camp unprotected.
The camp can follow us.
There are new foals. They could not travel so.
They can. We can leave the camp unprotected.
What do we know of these? Sorry, what did you call something? Plains?
Bergia Plains.
Bergia
They're the
Plains.
plains north of the Horseshoe Oasis. They're like pretty verdant in like spring and summer, pretty decent, but they're a hard place in winter and autumn. And the prospect of being a Khanate camp on the move on them, being pursued by a larger force, is daunting, because in the largely cavalry-based forays like of your people when they engage, can be more easily flanked on the plains. So even though the Dalat numbers are probably like 5 or 6 times your own, or yet easily more than that, they're in a worse position.
Yeah, we cannot leave ourselves unprotected.
If we lose them, we'll win them back. We started with nothing. We can start with nothing again. But now is a time to raise our standing and raise our name again throughout the tribes, throughout the people of the Taigan. But it takes risks, and it takes throwing all our few warriors into this. We can't just take a few.
And we cannot be the kind of allies who are only allies when things are good. Those are not allies. Those are not the kind of friends that we want to be, and we do not want a reputation for being friends that help you when you don't need help and then refuse to come when you need it.
This is true.
You could leave Aslan and Osen here. They have traveled
no.
much with you, and take the 3 newcomers.
I think we should take everybody. There are far more Zamagidi than us. We'll need everybody. Yeah.
I would not have us be those who leave our people unprotected.
What people? The women?
With a smaller force, we could move quicker. The Zamagidi will be, if I believe, if they would
Leave Dash to guard the camp.
You would need Garen with him.
No. No. It is your decision, Teneka. You have heard my advice.
I believe we should take a smaller force, leave a handful of warriors to guard the camp and take the rest. We can strike quicker. The Zamagidi, I believe, will be focused on the Dalat who are weakened. If the Fates are with us, they will not be aware of our knowledge, and we can use that to our advantage.
Kadan sort of nods and bows, and doesn't he goes out preparing preparing for the ride as quickly as possible. He starts filling saddlebags with sand, and puts some hot coals in the sand. So you can carry some hot coals whilst we ride.
Torkogana will say if there's nothing else to speak with Darby Khan's, he should rest now, and she'll like take to his care so that you guys can leave the putrid tent if there's nothing else you need to speak with him of for now.
The only thing I would ask him is how fares the smiling cat and I'm trying to remember was it Altana and Tarbar?
Altani.
Altani. Ask him how they fare. Do they all still live?
They do, though Bartu was grievous wounded in the last raid, where they lost many men. And so they had 10 urbans that they'd raised against the Zamagidi, and he would tell you now they have just over 80, which means they've lost 2 urbans, 20 men or so, against the Zamagidi, which has driven them back. So they have about 80 plus warriors. That's including Altani and everything. And you guys have a possible yourselves, which is 4 plus 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 warriors that you can gather.
Yeah.
I would rather be in the right place with 10 warriors than in the wrong 10,000.
Yeah, I'm not so worried. Myself and Teneka killed a great many men today. I killed most of them. I didn't even break a sweat. Zamagidi are not warriors. Wolves eat reindeer.
Teneka has spoken. Let us prepare for the ride. And Kadan goes out, calling the men, getting them on the horses.
Sarnai will walk alongside Teneka. I would not be left behind this time.
Why would they leave you behind?
She just smiles. Good.
Yeah, you can see the look on his face is almost kind of perplexed.
You and Chaloon went waiting without us.
Oh, someone had to stay and look over things.
I'm not good at governing. Chaloon he's like trying to sort of duck, chew, and swallow the remaining bits of meat. As he like looks, I'm only good at the fighting, the raiding. I'm not good at this.
And the eating.
Basically, Kadan will be going around making sure the Mongol way was riding with, I think, if you're a full warrior, you'd have 4 horses and you'd change them whilst you were on a long ride. Well,
you can do the best with the logistics based on what loot you guys have in the Hordelands Horde dock. Maybe, how about, since it's the 2 hour mark, how about we have a break here, like a bio-smoko break here, and you can pour over that, Caius, and then we can figure out what to do when we reconvene.
Yep. Sound good?
Yeah? Okay, cool. Let's do that. We'll go with that. I'll be back in a bit.
Cool, me too.
And Caius, just for your reference, the stuff from the most recent Zamagidi raid is at the top of the dock. And then we also have the...
It's not included in the main...
No, I've not incorporated it into all the other categories.
Nice.
So we got at least 9 horses from them, plus the other stuff we already had. Oh, and nope, then there's another 5 horses. So I think we got 14 from them.
Oh, and another 5 from that raid. Oh.
So my count is that ignoring the colts and the mares with foals, we have 21.
Colts are adults, so
Oh, are they? Okay.
I mean they're old enough to
Okay.
use as riding horses. So
23 then,
23.
accepting the 12 mares with the foals.
Oh, yeah. I suppose you can't take the.
Yeah, not so much.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
No, we can't.
Especially as it's foaling season.
Yeah, and I suppose we've lost one as well. So okay. Yeah, I hadn't. Yes, I've miscalculated. So 2, 7, 9, 14, 23. Plus the riders came in with 1 horse each, didn't they? The 3 Bayantu, Ogale, and Koridai each came in riding. They didn't come in walking, so that's another 3. Which brings
Good point.
which brings us up to 26, which means we'll only have, which if we leave 6, 1 for the 4 women and 1 for the 2 men who stay in camp, we've got 20 between us, between the 10 of us, which is 2 each. We'll ride on. And, well, is everyone back? Shall I? Or...
Yeah, I think that should be okay for like a short-ish journey. It's only a couple of days.
Mm-hmm. And we were. I'll collect a saddlebag with some sand in. Put a coal in each one so we can heat the Mongol thing. We can, if we need, so we don't have to stop. We can ride and ride and ride without stopping, and just to eat and drink. We can drink the blood from the horse, and then use the coal to heat a blade and sear closed.
Oh, wait, but that is a thing? You drink the horse blood?
Yep, that's what Mongols did when they were.
Oh, that is really gross.
So,
I mean, I'm sure Sarnai wouldn't think it's gross, but oh. Oh, no, you drink the blood?
Mm-hmm.
Ew. Why not like the bladders of the mare's milk or something? Ugh. Blood, that's so gross.
Good for you.
It's nutritious.
I'm very glad for my multivitamin.
100% natural.
I couldn't find out how they got the hot daggers to sear the veins closed again. So I've just invented that bit about getting coals from the fire and carrying them in sandbags, but it seems to work.
That seems pretty rad. I love it.
So, Nico, did you hear that or not?
I'm back. I heard you talking about sandbags and coals and such.
We've got 26 horses in total. I've worked out that we can use because
Cool.
we're not taking the mares which have foals. So we're leaving those and the. Actually, if we leave those back in the camp, we can take 26 horses with us, which is 2.5 each, just in case there are any mishaps or problems on the roads, and we'll each horse will, or each rider will have 1 saddlebag with sand and a coal in it, so we can do the Mongol trick of with a hot coal in it, so we can do the Mongol trick of never stopping, and just when we need nourishment we can slit a vein on the horse and drink the horse's blood and then sear it up, use the coal to heat up the metal, sear it closed with that.
Cool.
And just
for sure. And with like extra provisions that you guys have within the loot, you can equip yourselves too. If drinking like the pumping horse blood is not to your liking, because you guys aren't that destitute. Like you do have, I believe, like some stores of like beef and other food. But yeah, certainly, and you can array yourselves for battle given whatever weapons and armor that you have in your loot, if that's your wish.
Put the dried meat under the saddle and soften it that way. Do all these tricks. Soften it and cook it that way, and then ride hell for leather.
To where and to what end?
that's for Khans to decide.
So you're preparing everything and got everything ready to go if need be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after this is all seen to you, go back to the Khan's Gur, where I guess there's much discussion going on. Sorry, what were you going to say, Lloyd?
Around the Dalat lands where you were, we would have spent a lot of time there, I guess. Is there anywhere there that like I would think would make for a good place for a fight, battle, somewhere that's like advantageous sort of terrain-wise?
Yeah, the area where you guys had been taken in by the Dalat, their like spring camp, or like where they were from like the end of winter, had two ridges, like one to the west, one to the north, which like stopped them suffering the worst of wind, like cold winds and weather from those sides. Fighting on top of a ridge against an enemy would be preferential than fighting on a plain. But to draw them there would require like significant force, I guess, to make them divert forces away from the Dalat to that like you and your 10 might not be able to do. But similar to the Horseshoe Oasis, that place has high ridges, which are like good defensive positions if you can lure an enemy to fight there. But those two areas are where the Dalat have been driven from by the Zamagiti, and they now control those areas across to the river, the winding that they crossed, which puts you south of their domain, so to speak, and the Dalat north of it. Going like far west along the Goldway would take you to Almoral, which is like a hodgepodge outpost of many different like races and civilizations. That's kind of like a midway point upon the Goldway between the lands of Cormyr and the lands far to the east, the Shao. And north of there would take you around a lake, and then in behind where the Zamogiti reign at the moment, though that kind of journey would take like a week or more. It would take you through previously unexplored terrains, but that would be the kind of lengths you'd have to go to get around either side of the Zamagiti force. As for defensive or like more desirable positions, Lloyd, just those two that I mentioned, the Horseshoe Oasis and the winter camp of the Dalat would be the two like ideal places that you would want to fight an enemy of superior numbers to your own.
Okay.
As I understand it, they're attacking the Dalat, and sort of if we catch them in the rear, as it were, then we've got a surprise attack from behind.
Yeah, but only with 11.
Still.
Yeah. I mean, the best hope of that would be if their camp was empty of warriors.
Yeah, you could raid their camp while they thrust at the Dalat.
But that means that the Dalat will obviously succumb. Their numbers will decline.
Yeah, if they lost, they'd be driven out further onto the Bergia plains, which would make their like eventual pursuit and like capture inevitable. If the Zamagiti survive as well, the battle, if they have a battle.
That's true.
Which they might not be able to do if they don't have a camp anymore. But that prospect would mean you would think still fighting a rear guard who would presumably protect a Khan's camp, like same as like what you would leave, and would involve like the destruction and butchery of everything that you can't take back with you, or it'll just be reacquired by the enemy you're trying to deny.
So they have a lot more warriors than us, so is it?
As I understand it,
the Zamagiti and Dalat numbers are comparable, though given that the Dalat have lost that last raid under Batu, not Batu, I can't remember that guy's name now, Altani's brother, they, like the Zamagiti now have the numerical superiority over them, and you guys assume or safely know from like your many raids against them that they are armed by Shu, which puts them at like another kind of advantage over your allies. So you estimate their numbers to be 100 at least on the field. And yeah, it would have been much more than that, but given for the last 3 or 4 raids that you guys have done against them, I think you would have killed like 20 plus warriors or so.
So is our best bet maybe to harry them rather than try and get them like a full-on confrontation or battle is probably like not to our advantage.
No.
You know?
if we get there first and see what the situation is, that's when we should decide, I think, and then see from a distance of a few miles what the situation is. But if, as I sort of imagine it, the Dalats sort of have taken up defensive positions, and there's usually a few days of sort of maneuvering and sort of working out how you'll attack, get over the defensive position, and if we arrive at the time that they can if the Dalats see us arrive and decide to charge out at them, we can catch them between two forces. Being surrounded, if he divides and conquers us separately, that's to hit their advantage. But if we surround them and attack from both sides, that's to our advantage.
You imagine that the Zamagiri would not divide their force in two to pursue you, because it would mean the Dalai could overcome their remaining half, which is like that in addition to the Marmot Hollows and where you guys currently are camped, probably the reason for your not having like proper contact with the Zamagiri so far.
So we'd need to harry them enough that they feel it's necessary to divide their force to pursue us.
Or we just need to have a combined attack with the Dalat all out from two sides, and we could win the battle.
How would you time that without being intercepted on the Bergia Plains, where they can see everything? Everyone can see everything coming a mile away.
What if we tried to set up a trap? If we like find a place that's hidden, just as an example, let's say there's like a ravine or something that we can pass through, and we like send some of us forward and like try and get their attention, and then flee back firing arrows and stuff, but then we like lead them into like some pre-dug pits or things like that, whatever it might be. Could be something to do there,
yeah, kill zone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then have troops from the ravine come in to intercept them once they're pitted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say there certainly would be places like that on the outskirts of the Bergia Plains. So it would be a question of drawing their force further through the Bergia Plains and out of them, so making the Dalat flee further, expose themselves so further. That could get you to that kind of territory, which I think you'd find north of that lake, north of Almirel that I mentioned.
That seems like if we're going to fight them, then we have to be crafty about it, because if we just fight them on a battlefield, I think we lose 9 times out of 10,
And you might lose if you win too.
Yeah, exactly.
In that if you win and only lose half your men, you're pretty lost.
Yeah.
Combined.
So then I guess we need to get someone to the Dalat to tell them to continue fleeing harder. Right? Well, I guess we need to find the lay of the land before we do anything else. Find a place that we can do that. And like begin setting up those things, and then we can send like our best riders to speak to the Dalat, and then try and like lure the Zamagiri back in our direction into the sort of killing field we want them.
Well, that's it. It's definitely better if they are aware of our presence and know what the plan is, because I think that's the only way we're gonna really be effective.
Yeah, it needs to be synchronized by signals, really, because I think like timing needs to be on point. Otherwise, one force can just be overwhelmed easily. It all relies on everything else working with it if you're going to fight divided. So you'd have to devise some way of like signaling and coordinating.
It's certainly riskier, but it's a lot more favourable than a pitched battle of any kind.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Another option is if the Zamagiri forces are here, then who's protecting their tents and horses and women and wealth, Yeah,
I think that was brought up earlier, like a raid on their camp.
Yeah.
You could just butcher their people and steal everything and then burn what you can't take. and then they would be on the Bergia Plains without supply.
Yep. It also
So-
seems like that has a better chance of like us not dying en masse.
And if you let a runner escape to them, then that would possibly split their forces if they try to come back and protect their camp. And give the Dalat more of a chance.
I guess what we want though more than is like if we don't get them to come back and just destroy all their stuff and take all their stuff and burn the rest, then they're unsupplied and we'll just like starve potentially, you know?
Mm.
But would they overtake the Dalat before that?
And steal the Dalat things and
Yeah.
the Mongols need very little sustenance. I mean, they're the ultimate foraging army.
Yeah.
Ooh, a map.
I think that's probably like even if they don't then starve, I think it's still very effective in the long run to take their camp and destroy it. You know,
Yeah.
if we're going to be fighting a war against these people as
Well-
opposed to raiding them, then it's very effective to destroy their supply.
The thing about taking the camp is think of the morale side of that. Because as Taylor says, if that messenger gets through and word is spread, as it would, there's going to be ones left back home, you know? And if they're ordered by their clan to continue on towards the Dalat, that's not going to be good for
Divide.
morale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's a question of finding their camp, I guess.
And letting the Dalat be harried, like putting the Dalat at risk, are they're kind of like the bait in this equation, if I have it right, and time it so that when the camp is bereft, then you attack and raise it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then leave someone as a spy of like this plague of division to go back and give word that the camp is at risk and yada, 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 so as to try and divide the force between the Dalat and going back to their camp.
Always leave one to tell the tale.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the way forward, personally.
So should we send someone, even one person, to tell the Dalat of the plan that we're going to do this, and then we're not abandoning them, basically. Even knowing that we're doing something would be helpful to the Dalat, I think, for their morale, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. Is we have to let them know that they are not abandoned.
The risk being if the spy fails or is captured and worse tormented to giving out, then your plan is lost, and so is the initiative, and the Dalat are doomed. Well, not doomed, sorry, but the camp will not be exposed.
That's true.
Like, it wouldn't be as simple as it would have been 2 months ago to just send someone to Olin the Smiling, as Darby is evidence of.
All right, well, let's just do the thing then, I think. And we can explain to the Dalat afterwards.
And perhaps even share some of the wealth as a sign of our alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
If we make a big, if the bonfire is clear and the smoke, the day allows a lot of smoke, then it should be seen from a great distance over the plains by both the Dalat and the Zamagidi. That might be enough of a message.
I think between that and 10 wolves howling to be carried in the wind.
Depends how far away from the camp they are.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you can howl loud. I'm sure they'll hear you.
We need to get some, I'm just thinking this is like maybe irrelevant, but we need to get some actual wolves or like hounds for our, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do. That's next session.
Okay, so we got to find this camp. That's our mission now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we want to like, if we have a map to pour over, like look at and see where we might make camp if we had 100 plus.
Yeah, it would be a knowledge of the region. It would be a history check to try and devise where you could like assume like spots to be camps would be. That would include like wells or springs or like small places of life or safe havens in the wastes.
History?
Uh huh.
Yeah, it's not bad. 14.
You know of a well to the west of Horseshoe Oasis. And further to the north of that, on the outskirts of the Bergier Plain, there's like a small collection of foothills, one of which has a spring fed from like the earth spirit beneath. Those two places, like being in proximity to them, would serve as good places for a camp, for like a force that's pursuing something north and further west into the Bergier Plains. So you would estimate, I guess, based on what you know, Shalun, that their camp is either going to be northwest of Horseshoe Oasis, the well, which is west of Horseshoe Oasis, or west of the spring in the foothills on the edge of the Bergier Plains, the eastern edge of the Bergier Plains.
When we get to the area of the Bergier Plains, if we spread out, so there are a few miles between each rider, and so we're kind of, when we travel forwards, we're, say if there's 3 miles between each rider, with 10 of us, we'd be covering a sort of a net of about 30 miles across, able to see, and we just make a sweep, looking out, and if somebody sees the sees the camp, then how can we signal to attract the attention of the others? If we all check each other's position at nightfall, and you make a small sort of, I don't know, at sundown, you make are there such, light a candle or something like that, and just if you if there's nothing, you just let it be shown once, and if you find the camp or something, you let it be seen twice briefly, and then if the other people see it, then they pass on the message of 2, and the other, if you see 2 lights at sundown, you've got to approach the people who showed 2 lights until you wait until the people at the end of the sort of sweeping line come to the center, or come to wherever whoever originated the signal. Would that work?
Sounds workable. I guess the only danger is that it shows that signal also to the enemy, but I don't know if there's any signal that we can make that they won't be able to see if they're looking, you know?
No, exactly. If we sort of decide exactly when we do the signal, so it's only there for a few seconds just after the sun's gone down.
And if we know in which direction we're looking as well, we can kind of stand in front or behind to block sight.
Then, yeah, shield it from the direction we think the Zamagidi are with our own body, and so only one direction can see it, and use that signal, and if there are 2 lights, just approach it. How about that? What do you say, Teneka? My brother Khan.
Sometimes I wonder how your mind works, Kadan. From climbing trees to this.
You've got to plan to climb. You can't just start climbing without thinking first.
And yet I've seen you do it.
Well, other people can't climb without thinking first. I've been thinking whilst I was sleeping.
It will help us cover more ground and surely we will spot sign. If they have large numbers such as we estimate, we should surely find them.
So with a plan in hand and your Urban of 10 ready, you fall in and ride out of the Marmot Hollows, leaving the people behind in pursuit of the Zamagidi north of here. I'm going to do a skill challenge now, 3 before 2, for you guys to to find the Zamagidi host, to track it, to not be spotted by them, and then to be able to approach and time it for when their forces are away pursuing the Dalat. So several days have gone by and you've ridden past the Horseshoe Oasis and easily, as you'd predicted, seen visible signs of their numbers moving off into the west. And they branch into smaller parts, foraging and such at that. And so your search and pursuit of your own kind begins in earnest. And you guys can choose what skill you want to use and rationalize how it might be best served to the party in locating this camp and getting to it undetected.
Chilin, despite his large size, is surprisingly adept at not being seen. He's quiet and quick and understands a lot about like positioning and things like that, especially in the dark, and how to like hide his bulk best by like breaking the obvious shapes and things like that. So I'm going to roll stealth to try and avoid being seen.
Okay, please do.
That's a crit, so at 27.
Okay, that's going to be a success. Yeah, so while you're heading ever west in pursuit of the Zamagidi camp, you remain undetected by their rear guards or sentinels over the night.
Cadan has very sharp eyes and knows. Briefly appears on sort of briefly whenever he sees a tree or something like that, trees are no problem. He just goes up to the top and scans. He's right at the end of one of the line because he reckons he's got one of the best visions, and he's whenever he gets the opportunity to get a wider look from the top of the tree with the cover of the tree, he goes up, scurries up like a monkey and looks around, and he gets a perception of 20.
Yeah, especially once you get past the foothills and out into the edges of the plains, you can see for miles when you get to like a high point. And so keen-eyed and like youthful act as a good scout from what scant heights there are to be found here, always pursuing for the enemy. And you see signs of like either the passage or like rear scouts of the Zamagidi main host. Lurk off to the west once you're on the outskirts of the Bergier Plains towards the well known as Tsetseg. That's another success.
Sarnai will look at the landscape and think of how the water flows, and watching the people and where they might camp next will try and anticipate their movements with survival. And that's a 17.
Yeah, so you can tell even by like the name of the place, and there might be some forage nearby this well for the Zamagidi camp to take advantage of. And so you can't imagine that they'd be any more than a day's west ride of that place, if not encamped about it. And it seems as though there's like 150 to 200 in this like entire train of people that you guys have been tracking through the last couple of days. And it seems like the vast majority of them like snake off to where this place that you anticipate. And on a clear night thereafter, it's that assumption proves true, as from a ridge you guys watch the few spot campfires and such of what must be the Zamagiti camp laying down before you around the well called Flowers by the people who inhabit the wastes. In crawling up alongside your siblings, you can hear the occasional call from one horse to another, or people to each other from the camp. And yeah, see the distant crackle of like some campfires or sentry torches about it at night. It dwarfs your own, thinking of your own camp behind in the hollows. Skill encounter is a success. You locate the camp on the outskirts of the well called Tsetseg, west of Horseshoe Oasis. Beyond that, further west and northwest of here, lies the Bergia Plains. And the rest of your Orban is further back from you, within like our call sound, with the rest of the horses and gear. Always keeping Karandan to spy upon the camp over the next day. By the afternoon, from like repetitive, like and confirmed head counts or guesses from beyond Karan, it seems clear that the bulk of the riders and warriors here have gone off in pursuit of the Dalats, leaving the camp slightly defended, given that there are occasional mounted warriors patrolling or sentries moving between the Gurs, though in like a much relaxed fashion than what like you would expect or you yourself would employ.
Am I able to count how many? I mean, there's always a chance.
Perception check, please.
16.
2002. There are a dozen and two. There are 14 warriors, like as you would class warriors. You know, like they have armor and proper war gear, moving about the camp. And there's probably like 70 of women and children and old folk and such. And there's heaps of goats and 24 horses that aren't being ridden or used currently.
And after raiding, where do we take these things when they come after us? Back to the Marmot Hollows all the way? Or do we battle in the Oasis?
The hollows are pretty defensible, right?
Yes, certainly. Most significantly to like a cavalry attack. Like a heavy infantry like based force would, like the Marmot Hollows would not offer too much. But for your cultures, it's a viable position. Though with that Karan, you do not spy like exactly where the Zamagiti force are, nor any like further like sentries or outriders beyond the camp, such like that you might suggest your own Khan to employ if you had this position and number.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, sometime I spend the whole day watching, and occasionally then I'll go back and report everything I see to Teneka and the others.
Well, we have the advantage of surprise at least. A nighttime attack. Raise the camp
Yeah, we could sneak in and take out sentries first. We want to ensure that this is a success.
Hmm.
Though my preference would be to howl and ride in. Might be smarter to act more like a wolf.
No, I agree. We only need one to carry the news.
What of the women, children, and elderly?
Do we want to start an eternal war with these, or just prove a point?
That's a good question. I don't know. What do they usually do with women, children, and old people?
I would imagine, like in this world, that there'd be rampant slavery.
Yeah.
There's certainly Rashomon to the south and Damaran to the further west that would trade in slaves, and then the Shu far off to the east along the Goldway would trade in slaves. Though traditionally, like your peoples don't use slaves or like have slaves.
There's
But
also
other peoples do.
well, there's also the logistic thing of we kind of want to do this and then bugger off sharpish, as the saying
Yeah,
goes.
it makes that useless then, really. Like to take a good number of them for slaves, it would slow you down and
We have to feed them for days.
true enough.
Is it like insane to just kill them? Like, is that like the act of a? Would that be the act of like a mental can, or is that like also normal? Because I know, like,
I imagine that would be commonplace
Yeah.
and like unfortunate, but like brutally so.
but Mongols were
But like
do a lot of
Caius
killing
hinted
in the
at,
category.
this would be this would mean the Naican or Teneka's Naican and the Zamogidi have like a blood feud forever, in the same way that the Dalit and the Zamogidi have a blood feud forever, and that the Komani and the Naican had a blood feud forever until Kokchu destroyed the Komani.
I don't believe in forever.
It's like the most effective thing we can do is just kill all of them. I think. I mean, the other thing that we could do is kill them in effect by basically destroying the camp, taking everything that we can carry, and burning everything else, and leaving
And
them
butchering
there.
all the goats and excess horses.
Yes. And then leaving the people there. So then it's like, listen, we didn't kill your wives and children, but the message
Not
is
all of
clear.
them.
I don't know. I mean,
But we can certainly scatter them out, and if it gives them a chance, so no one can say we never did that.
if I'm the Khan though of these people, and I come back and it's like, oh, they burned everything that we own, they killed all the excess animals, so we couldn't use them. But they did keep our wives alive, so I guess that's enough. Like, we won't have an eternal feud, you know. Like, I don't see how doing one is so much worse than doing 90% of it and leaving the camp.
This goes from a raid to a blood feud. This goes from raiding into blood feud territory, no matter which way you cut it, I guess.
It doesn't matter, right? Like, so to me, it doesn't seem significantly worse to kill the people when we're already destroying everything they own.
Yeah, presumably Nayaga Khan and his son, the heir Basutai, and their wives will be in this camp. So yeah, you're right. Like, even if you don't kill his wife, the fact that you steal all her jewelry and burn her tent that's war. That's it.
Do we want to start this war, or do we want to just raid and be successful and win a reputation?
I think it's kind of started already.
Yeah.
Nah.
I mean,
raid on a camp while they're attacking the Dalit, it is war, I reckon. And I think you guys would think so too.
It's raiding. It's stupid.
if the options we have either are go to war with the Zamogedi or break our alliance with the Dalit, right? Like, those are
the words were to raid the Zamogidi for 2 span, and that's coming to an end at the end of summer, which is in, say, like a month or a week or so either side of that. There are all talks of like friendship in it, but you guys didn't formally make allies of them, right? They wanted to take you in. You said you'd always be friends, but I remember there was like some caginess of like words exchanged to that effect.
Well, we don't
So I
want to
don't know
be
if you are
Gala.
technically. Yeah.
We want to be Naican, you know? That's
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. If we capture, if they have left their children and wives, if we take them as hostages and use them as a bargaining chip to, they have been grazing their herds on Dalat lands. They have been raiding Dalat lands. They have been accepting gold and weapons from the Chew. If we use their wives and their children and their things as a bargaining chip to broker a peace and a new arrangement, new borders between them, and strike out, return things to as they were, then maybe we can, from a position of strength, dictate terms to them. And if we take one of their children as a hostage to bring up as a warrior amongst the wolves, then permanently, or until he is an adult, and then he can return to his own people. But for a few years, then maybe instead of destruction and death, we can get in the long term, we can get an allies of both.
I think in most cases I would probably agree with you there, but what we know of the Zamagidi Khan is he is warlike. He's actively pursued the Dalat. I don't think that taking a hostage would stop him.
If you are my Khan, I will. You as you wish, Khan. But he's
maybe this Khan will.
Happy, but he follows your orders.
Maybe this Khan will acquiesce to our demands if the hostage is his son. That is possible, but he has more sons and he can make more sons.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would look at it if I was him. I would not be dictated terms by any Khanate, never mind one that has 1/10 of the people of my own.
How secure is he in how his own men follow him? If we have their children too, they may not be so happy to have their own children threatened against them.
I think we should kill all of them and then move away from these lands.
Oh.
I agree.
If we kill all of them, then we are just doing the Chow's work for them.
But we're also putting a message out there that to align with the Chow.
This land cannot support. The Chow are innumerable, and every Naican, every Taigan has to be coaxed from this unforgiving land. 20 years to survive as a Tegan is no small achievement, and there aren't that many of us. If we kill too many, what chance do we have? But sorry.
And if we don't kill enough, then we have no chance because they will kill us. We are few. We need a reputation.
If it's just survival.
And some of you need wives.
I can just imagine three brothers just looking at one another in silence.
Like crickets.
Yeah, it's a fair point, but I think it would be commonplace for like Hordelands warriors in a situation like this, if they are to sack a camp, to take wives.
Yeah.
It's tricky for me here because I'm trying to strategize as Chulun and not myself, because I don't think that I probably wouldn't make these calls, but I think Chulun is like, let's just, because I would probably think like in a more long-reaching sort of way, you know, like you're putting forward, Caius, and you're right. Like we can't be killing all of the Hordelands people. Like it's not useful in the long run for any of us. But then Chulun doesn't really think in that way, you know.
And the act is symbolic too, I think, of killing the women and children and old people of the Zamagiti camp, to what Caius is pointing at. But yeah, logistically, like, to not kill them is to give that resource back to your enemy and not make... It's like doing Pearl Harbor but not targeting half the ships.
Well, they will have a chance to flee. Those that choose to flee and those that take up arms will be killed. So some of them will survive. I think that's the best we can do. Just scatter them.
Brother Khan, you should allow the men among us to take wives from the raid.
No hostages.
Not hostages, wives.
I mean the children.
If we come to the Khan and we say we have the wives of your men, we have your wife, we have their children, we have your child, and then we tell him that, and then he sees that we are 10 and he is 100, he'll just kill us.
Mm-hmm.
We have no strength from which to bargain from, even if we have all of the people.
That's a good point. He could just hold you with 80 men and send 20 to do the same to your camp.
Yep. Like, we don't have any position of... That's why I think we need to be brutal and quick, and because if we linger and we I think we can't even meet with the Khan, because if we do and he comes with even half his troops, we're probably dead.
Well,
Yeah,
that's kind of my thinking in that, the logistic side of things. We can't really...
Then if we are making... No.
Yeah, you must speak, Kadan.
That's the first time you've ever said that.
Now, for once, I feel that you're actually speaking instead of just making monkey noises.
Will this weaken the Zamagidi, or will it just attract their attention to us? And
it will do both.
Yeah.
It destroys their food, destroys their excess horses, kills their families, and soils their supply line while they're out in the middle of a plain pursuing a force of comparable but still like less than size.
But if that's my point, the other side is comparable, and if they meet and we coordinate an attack at the same time, then if it's to be war, then we should. I mean, I'm happy to attack this raid, but I can't see how this will actually get us an advantage in the long run.
Wolves hunt not the biggest thing, but the weakest one, the sickest one, because it's easier and it's more successful more of the time. That's what we're doing. Taking some of the sick from their herd.
This is...
If we go and fight them in open battle, even with the Dalat, with comparable numbers, we will lose comparable troops. And we cannot afford to lose one person, never mind half, which might be realistic when we're fighting against enemies who have better equipment, who are more veteran than us. And that's if we win.
If we raid the camp, if we burn everything, we kill the people there, those who have not fled, the Zamagidi will be weakened. The Dalat can wage their war the rest of the way, and we could assist, perhaps. But I agree, we cannot pitch battle. We do not have enough.
There are many opinions being thrown your way, Khan. I say we sneak into their camp at night and we kill all of them and we burn the rest. That is my vote.
I believe this will be a night that forever sits heavy on my conscience. But I agree with you, Julian. This is what must be done.
It must be done.
So no, you go.
It gives the Dala a fighting chance. Once news reaches them, the Zamagidi forces, they will be rattled, they will be angry, and an angry Khan will make mistakes.
He will chase us through ravines onto spiked pits.
What spiked pits?
The ones that you will dig.
He would, you think, chase you onto spiked pits or through marmot holes in revenge for this, or even maybe even more so if you held someone of his kin, like a wife or daughter, at your will. Because like most Khans would.
Then there's planning to do. The Marmot, what are they called? Marmot Hills?
Yeah,
Where
Marmot
our camp
Hollows.
is. That's a very defensible place, and we could do more even to fortify them further. We destroy their camp and we burn everything. We make our way back there, and we leave some trail so that they know, and they follow us, and they charge across the Marmot Hollows, and we hold them there maybe, or we run. The plains are endless.
And the Zamagidi could not pursue us for long with such a large number. But we would need to bring the others with us.
Well, for the last week, Kadan's been practicing the camp, having it packed down and up again and being able to move on within a 24-hour period now. So in this instance, that would mean that effort's not for nothing.
"24 hours." My plan
Isn't that what you said? That you got it in that story that you wrote, that they're able to completely pack down and move on within a day?
No, within a few hours is my ambition.
My bad.
It might take a while.
Okay.
He's really drilling them.
Yeah.
So darkness comes while this prospect looms heavy on your conscience, Teneka. And the hour of the wolf comes prowling. Arslan and Ozen and Geren and Buyatan and Korodai and the others, all like ashen or like soot-faced with their blades muddied or dirtied, waiting. Is your intent, Chulun, to lead a group stealthily in and begin an attack and then have others come in at a signal? Or is it to have all go in at once under cover of darkness on foot to begin an attack by stealth that way?
I think to go in with a small group, maybe just myself and Kadan even, and set fires, like kill sentries, and then like if we can sneak into a gur where there are warriors, kill them while they're asleep, and then begin setting fires. And when the fires start, or we call the rest of the people charge in on horseback. That would be my how to murder an entire settlement of people plan. We probably want to leave one warrior on horseback out of it with a bow who can fire at any who try to escape.
But miss one.
Yeah, you imagine like getting someone to survive this, to go tell the tale of it, will be a certainty, will be easy. I don't think there's any rational way that 11 of you can butcher 14 warriors and 60 innocents without some of them getting away, considering how many of them have access to horses. So that's certainly going to happen, you'd imagine.
So we want to try and minimize that number, though. So is there a way that we can
getting the herd away from the people first?
Yeah, or even hobble the horses or something. We don't want to harm them, obviously, because they're money, but that's probably a priority.
Yep, we should escape we should ride off the horses almost as first moment that there's a alert is raised. We should.
Doing that will bring all of the camp sentries running, says Arslan. If we threaten their horses, they will all come.
Good.
So we could fight them there, Khan.
We can prepare and have our men within sight of that with bows ready, so that when the sentries come, we just...
You'd need fires for that, for the archers to have sight, because it's nighttime.
That's true.
So you're going to need to sneak in, kill sentries, set fire, take horses, pull guards, and then shoot them when they come into light.
I think the setting fire can happen afterwards. We need to steal the horses and kill the sentries is the priority, and the rest can... Then we can do as we like.
How stealthy are you, Teneka?
Very stealthy.
Then maybe the three of us. Sorry, I feel like we leave Sarnai out all the time, but...
How stealthy are you, Sarnai?
+4.
I don't trust +4. I'm +7. I don't know. I mean, it feels like a bummer to leave you out of it, so let's just
it's fine.
Get caught.
No, Sarnai will be with the bow at the back.
If you want, you could leave me, because I've actually, I'm still got broken ribs and I'm still a bit of a liability.
Okay, so me and you then, Teneka. So let's break it up then into tasks. I'm very good at killing men with my bare hands, so maybe that's my job. Kill sentries, choke them out, walk into tents, stand on throats. We need to... I think that the twin telepathy will be useful here, in that we can time our killing of sentries, so it happens at the same time.
Hopefully so.
That will require a successful stealth check on both accounts, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Sarnai is exceptional with horses. I think we should use that for... We should be in a position to drive out the horses.
So the idea is to have 2 go in, take out the sentries, set the horses free, and have Sarnai or just Sarnai by herself, take the herd, steal the herd.
If we ride in and steal the herd, because they're much happier following horses than humans, so just on horseback, ride in quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Cut Eye is with the rest of the Urban with bows waiting to intercept the guards who come to stop the horse thieving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I love it.
And I'm with Kadan as well.
Hang on.
Yep.
Do
But you're going to ride off to steal the horses, I think, as far as the plan
yeah.
is outlaid.
we kind? What's the weather like? Will
Clear.
fire?
It was clear yesterday and clear tonight.
So fires will take.
Yeah, you'd think so. Fire's the big danger to camps like this.
Yep. I'll to have any accuracy in the arrow fire, we need to light the fires straight off. Actually,
Get the bloody coals out of the sand saddlebags.
yeah, and yeah, when hell kicks off, I'll try and light the biggest tent.
Okay, I like it. I can see from the chat that you guys both got exceptional stealth checks, even beyond that of like the horses that these men are like trotting about on the outskirts of their camp on. You kind of just like mingle in with all the other stink. I guess the stink of being on horses for 8 days has paid off in that sense. If you creep low and quiet enough and close enough to like hear the grumbled speech of these young men as they like either like riding along or like pulling their horse along behind them or having it just follow them as they do their rounds. They're grumbling to each other about being left behind and how much like loot that they'll miss when the Dalite gets slaughtered out on the Bergia plains, and like how they'll just get all the old toothless women or like all the young idiot girls as wives compared to all the best of them, which will be taken by the older warriors, and they're ruining it that they've been left here to guard the camp. And that another one counters with, there's been a lot of those like Naican raids to the south of us, and but the others talk very dismissively of your Khanate, that it's like the buzzing of mosquitoes at a bear. And they grumble and laugh, and the usual kind of things that you'd imagine like soldiers at this hour of the night, some minutes after midnight, would have drawing the short straw, so to speak. You can creep up to them and you can hear like the horses winnicking occasionally to each other in their corrals, like where they've been like penned or tethered, and like the creak of these men's armor as they go about, and the smells of the camp and its latrine and the crackle of like fire from the various like spot fires that are about here, or like lit torches, fills your nostrils. You can move up to within 60 feet of these gentlemen and see them like silhouetted by the clear night's moonlight, and mark 2 riders and one with a horse that's plodding along behind him as they do their rounds. And after like some moments here listening to their grumbling and like watching them like predators, you note that these 3 seem responsible for this like part of the camp where the horses are, leaving another 11 or so to either be like guarding about the rest of the camp or like sleeping, probably like an alternating guard, you'd imagine. And soon they'll come back around for their round past the hidden position that yourselves are in, Teneka and Chulun.
Are the 3 riding together?
They're in a loose kind of like triangle, like their shape as they like march around the outskirts. Or 2 of them
they're not
are
like
the others living.
Sorry, they're not all like moving it like as a 3 together. They're like at 3 different parts of the camp, are they?
No, sorry, just like they're not like tight adjacent with each other. It's more like in
okay.
a loose form. They're moving about together. Yeah, not like 3 figures equidistant from each other, rotating around the camp. Still moving as like a trio.
Okay, how are we going to kill 3 guards without one of them making any noise? I can probably stun 2 of them.
And a quick arrow to take out the one from behind.
Yeah. Particularly if I'm stealth, I should be able to guarantee hitting both of them. So I guess there's like a look between Chulun and Teneka, and like just with like eyebrows and eye sort of motion, they're able to like make clear which one of us is getting which one. My intent is to like sneak basically right up to them and try and like throat punch them so they can't scream.
Yeah, you guys will both have a surprise round on these guys as you like creep up to like where they will like pass through as they had on their previous round, and can so ambush them in the dark.
Can we just enter the sort of initiative as with readied actions in case sort of hell kicks off, or shall we wait until later?
Might as well do it now. Actually, that's a good point, because otherwise we just have to do another one. And you guys essentially do have readied actions. When you see fire break out or hear a fight break out, you're to advance and then fire upon that vantage where the guards will be coming from the rest of the camp to the horse pen section. And I think Sanai could have a readied action like riding away towards the corral where it's going to be opened up to pilfer those horses. But yeah, you guys can certainly like ready actions and stuff like that. Every round that you don't like take an action, you can ready another action if you wish, should like plans change as it progresses.
So now you're slow coach.
Yeah, so Bold is the one who's grumbling from horseback about not being able to go to the battle, and how they'll just get like the ugly wives. And Taha is the guy leading his horse, not wanting it to go lame by riding it at night. Yeah, and so Teneka and Chulin are the first to act. They'll get their surprise round, and then it will go to initiative, which is Teneka then Chulin.
So yeah, I'll just run as fast as I can, which is extremely quick, towards, and I'm going to basically like try and leap up and smash my elbow into the throat of one, while I like poke two like iron fingers into the throat of the other one. So I'm hidden, right? So I have advantage on the first.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, 19 on the die, so 26 to hit.
Certainly.
That's nice. That's 9 damage, and he needs to make a con save.
Con, he gets an 11 all up, which will be a fail, I'm imagining.
Yep, he's stunned.
Okay. The guy on the horse, the grumbler or the silent one?
The silent one.
Okay.
And then I will
Stun.
attempt the same on the next guy, the other guy. And that one's a crit. Oh my god. Yes! Yes! Sometimes the dice gods, they smile. That's 10 damage.
Okay.
And he needs to make a con save as well.
12, which I assume is a whopper.
He's stunned as well.
So you run up between the two horses and whoop, jump up into the air and either side, and they're like, oh!
Yeah. Okay, so they're both stunned. I've used 2 key points.
And you'll get to roll on the crit table. We're using the nasty crit table for this game, so this is in combat technically. So roll a d10, please.
A 9.
9, knocked prone. So he's prone and stunned and has taken 10 damage.
Excellent. Okay.
So you knocked him prone, which means he falls off his horse, actually.
Yeah. Perfect. I am going to spend a key point to make 2 more attacks. One.
Okay.
So I'll hit the guy who is knocked off onto the ground. I'll try and hit him. Almost certainly 17 all up.
17 hits.
For 10 damage. Jesus.
10 damage. He's bloodied.
Okay, and then the... yeah, the guy on the horse then. Yeah, it's 13 plus 7, so 20. Jesus.
Yep.
It's for 8 damage.
17. He too is bloodied.
Okay. Yep, so he runs up and basically smashes his elbow into the throat of one, which knocks him off the horse, and then stands on his head, and then like turns to the other one and like karate chops him in the throat and then punches him in the kidney. So which two were they? They were Tahar and Olai, right?
No, Olai and Bold.
Okay, yeah.
Olai is stunned and bloodied, and Bold is stunned and bloodied and prone.
Excellent.
And Teneka, you're ready to action?
Yeah. As soon as he sees Cholon spring from the shadows, he will fire an arrow. And then before that one is even halfway to his target, he'll fire another for a 26 and a non-natural 20.
They both hit.
15 on the first, 10 on the second.
25. Oh, Olai is slain. So after your onslaught, Chulun, you drop back down to your feet, and then the guy looming over you, like badly wounded in the saddle, just drops from it with like 2 arrows sprouting from his chest.
Perfect.
Now it's into initiative, and so it's Tanaka's turn. At this, like Olo's horse rears and drops his like slain body to the ground next to where Bold is stunned, and Taha begins to like cry out in alarm.
As soon as in fact, as the body is fallen, Teneka will draw his blade and rush forward. And as he cries out, he will swing down with the sword. He's the one that's prone.
That's Bold, yes.
That's Bold that he's crying out.
No, Tahar.
Oh no, sorry, it was Taha. He's unharmed. He's got a horse by the end.
But he is stunned. So
Taha's
Bold is
stunned.
stunned.
Bold
Can they
is
shout
stunned.
when they're stunned? Oh,
Olai
Okay.
was stunned. Olai was stunned and slain. Bold is stunned and prone and bloodied. Oh, sorry, you already said bloodied. And Taha is unharmed and unaffected by anything so far.
well, the one that is about to shout out is the one that's going to get the sliced
Blade.
and diced.
Okay.
And I do mean that because that's a natural 20.
Oh, grim. Shit. Give me the damage.
Give me a second. I wasn't expecting this. Just got that. Okay. 19.
19 damage to Taha. So I'll need a D10 and then a D10 from you.
2 and 8.
Okay. Roll a D4.
3.
So he's stunned for 3 rounds from the crit, and then drops to 0 hit points, bleeding out from the system shock. As you gut him with the blade, twist it and pull it out, along with a couple of loops of belly eels. It drops to his knees with like the cry being cut short into like wet, bloody gurgles, as his innards spill down his front, and he drops from your blade. And it's Chulun's turn.
So Tahar is dead.
He is.
Wonderful. Great. So then I'm just going to basically raise my foot up and heel stomp onto Bold's throat while he's on the ground. He's the one who's still alive. But
Stunned and prone, yep.
Yeah. Okay. It's only a 15.
15 just misses. Maybe like kick him into the chest where he has boiled leather, like coiled about it, and it doesn't crack.
So that's no good. So then I'll instead try and smash my elbow down onto his face. That's much better. That's over 20.
That hits.
For 10 damage.
Very badly bloodied, nearly slain and stunned, which means he misses this turn, and it goes to Teneka. Though at the end of his turn, he's not stunned anymore, and so we'll use his free on Teneka's turn to like scream out in agony.
Okay. Well, because I thought he wouldn't be able to do anything. I can continue attacking. So I definitely, if that's an option, then I definitely would.
Okay, sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep, in the same way that you'd be able to yell out if your paralysis ended at the
Yeah.
end of your turn, the start
For
of the
sure.
next person's turn, technically you could yell out.
I didn't really think about it. I'll certainly then spend another key point to Flurry of Blows to attack 2 more times.
Okay.
So that's a 17 on the first, and higher than that on the second.
Yeah, well, 17 is his AC, so
Okay.
certain hit, 2 hits.
So 7 for the first and 8 for the second. So 15 all up.
15 and 8. Oh, he's slain.
Oh, thank God.
He's butchered, which means no like real cry of alarm went out in that like what 8 seconds that just unfurled then. So several of the horses are panicked, and the one that was underneath Olai when he was shot through has like run off. But that's a minimal amount of pandemonium compared to what could have occurred. This like great success would allow you to move up and pull down the side of like the bramble pen that holds the excess horses of the Zamagini, and to reach down with like one of Arslan's tongs into the sand pouch and pull out hot coals to like begin tossing into Gers. Or whatever you wish, I guess. As far as like Sanai and Karanov are aware, it's just tense waiting at this stage, while they might hear the occasional or like a winnicking horse or something. But yeah, no signal or flame has gone up as yet.
I'll have crept forward into range for my composite bow, which the long bow basically, but it's a long bow. But that's apart from that, nothing.
Yeah, the others will move up, creeping alongside you, dismounted with their bows ready.
Chillin will turn the magical ring around and give himself stone skin, and then we'll begin the process of trying to walk into tents, and if people are asleep, basically just like taking his knife and shoving it into their throats.
And what about Teneka?
Much the same course of action, but it's more kind of looking for anyone that's kind of been roused by anything they heard and popped their head out. He's basically covering Chillin while this happens.
Okay. And is your intent to burn stuff to give illumination to your waiting archers, or are you happy for them to fire into the fray with darkness?
I would think the more people that we can kill without alarming, the better. So the longer that we can keep this up, killing people while they're asleep, the better.
My readied action is I've got a fire arrow ready to shoot at the tents for if combat breaks out. But
okay, in that case, I'm going to say what happens is after the first like 8 or 9 people that you guys butcher inside your tents as you begin this massacre, you would start hearing screams cut short, even if it's just people who are like trying to crawl their way free, just to get butchered by the wolves. And this would lead to other cries of alarm within the camp, which would cause you, your action to be triggered and the men alongside you cut on, and you can begin to like rain this first volley of fire arrows, making them like largely useless against people, but cause a lot of damage to the Gers.
Just to provide illumination.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of them like just drop into like a grass or dung or like whatever, and nothing happens. But a few hit Gers, and then after the next volley, the spot fires begin to rage and like take up Gers, and people on fire will like run from them and add to the chaos inside the camp. Once this happens, the horses will panic once fire takes, and will begin to like stamp around their corrals until one of the horses would find the opening that wrenched open by Chulun in the bramble pen and begin to spill free from that in like a semi-stampede, which will trigger your action, Sano. So I'm going to need an animal handling check from you, DC 17, to save the herd. If you fail it within 5, you'll save half the herd. And less than that, you'll only be able to salvage a portion of the herd.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. That is a natural 20.
So I imagine you specifically chose as your second horse the largest like stallion that your party has raided from the Zamagidi, and like charged into this hole where the horses begin to stream out, like begin to corral them with like yips and calls learnt to you as soon as you could sit the saddle. And the horses in their fear and like a rising panic will like just instinctively like follow this, going into like herd mentality and stream out like more like an arrow than like loose coils of rope What a great time to roll a crit.
I was so nervous I was gonna fail.
And at this, warriors will begin to rush forward. A few will be cut down, Chalun and Teneka, by you before the others gain some semblance of sense and form together first, and then push en masse, which sees a volley of arrows come in from the side. Not fire ones now, but lethal ones streaking through the night as Arslan and Ozen and Karandan and the rest let loose their own volleys. I'm going to need a check from you, Karan. Sorry, not a check. It's actually your arrow to hit, but I'm going to get you to make 10 rolls.
You want 10 rolls?
I do, and your DC is 17, and so damage isn't going to matter for the purposes of this. But what it's going to represent is how many men get shot down by the volleys before they can swamp your Khan brothers. From you and the other men alongside you, whom I'd mark you as the best archer of by a long shot. Excuse the pun.
Damn. Let me just.
Ooh, that was that was such a Mr. Bean expression. I don't know what to take from that. It was like a critical success and a critical failure.
It's what was my one?
Tell me. Just kidding.
Including my I got 2, including my because I've been rolling my con saves as well, so I'm pretty crippled. I only got 2.
The rolls are meant to reflect you and the men with you, so I guess you'd only have to roll one of those.
Oh, okay then.
For yourself.
Oh, I see what you mean. So,
sorry, I forgot about those damn ribs. I guess technically that would make you not the best archer amongst those men with you, considering your propensity for failing from that injury.
Yep. Okay. So, well, still 3.
3 men go down. Okay. So you unleash these volleys, but it's nighttime and there's chaos, and I mean there's people running around on fire and horses and such. So I can imagine it. Even though you're well prepped and ready, to your men, the fates aren't with you, and many of those arrows that should have felled warriors pass over them, shoot into tents or otherwise lost to the dark. So it's at this point that the camp defenders who've rallied together will charge into the Khan brothers. You're on horseback, Sarnai. So able to get within this fray, but it would take you the full expense of your turn, to get up to it, if that is your wish. Or you could get up inside of it and fly with your bow.
Did we have someone else to be herding the horses, or was that my?
There was another person left back with a bow to shoot people who fled past the main fight, but I don't know if there was another designated to take care of the herd. If there's not, I guess that means you would be taking this horde back to your own camp. It's up. I'll allow you guys to discuss it now if you want retroactively, because you would have gone over this over the last 4 hours.
It's probably worth sending one person back with this huge horde of money.
Yeah.
Not you. We need you here to fight and
For a
kill
warrior.
people. But yeah, one person, one warrior, ideally, that we can send.
Oh, so
Arslan is old and wise and trustworthy, and a smith, which means if he dies here, it's worse than just a warrior dying because it's someone skilled as well.
That's right.
So he could go.
Send him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
So also for your
plan
crit, Taylor, that you've charged your. Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for your crit, we can say that you've corralled the horses out and leading them back towards behind where Karan's emplacement is with his men, to where Arslan is waiting to assist you in corralling them away from the massacre and such to come, so that they won't panic and split. Similar, you're a 60 foot or so away, Karan, with your men from where the fray will now break out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to use mob for these individuals and reduce their hit points accordingly based on your successes, Karan. I'll just roll their initiative now. and it is a 6, which means they're going to go after Sanai anyway, so we can just go off that initiative list that you guys already prepared. So Teneka, you can see this like mob of like yous and a few old men. There's a few like women who have strapped daggers to their hands as well, running screaming towards you and your brother amongst the flaming gurs and panicked horses and dying men. It is your turn to act, my lord. Or are you having checks? Are the Chexian Gambit? Oh yeah, I see. Mic issues. Okay, cool. Do you need to reboot or something? Should we take a break? I guess I don't know why I just asked you when you told me the
You've
mic
got
is.
a mic issue.
But if you can hear me, you can type.
You need 2 minutes, maybe. I could use the little girl's room.
Okay, let's do it. We'll take a break
real
and
quick.
then we'll come back to a battle and then finish it.
Yeah. Sick. All right, back in 2 seconds.
Well,
I hear you.
uh,
At least I hear tapping anyways.
yeah, it's the only way I can tell.
Welcome back.
Sod's law.
At least it's not the portal.
That's true.
It's much easier on my ears to not have the...
Yeah, I need to do something about this cable. The problem is if I move, like the boom arm that the microphone sits on, it's got a 50-50 chance of knocking that cable out.
Yeah, that's similar to mine. It has a 50-50 chance of just making it go crackly. Like it still works, but that's what gives me that crackly issue.
I think
The
it's
rest of
just
the headset fine, it's just the boom.
yeah, it just seems to be the placement of where the connector is. Get some duct tape.
I'm back.
Cool. Yeah, so go for it, Teneka. I'm not sure if you heard me before, but I'm just going to use these mob stats. Cool. So you can see their initiative list there, and we'll just go from what you guys did before, since this is like a premeditated plan.
Yep,
So this 9 is rushing towards you in amongst the fire and rain of arrows and screaming horses.
Yeah, so as the battle is joined, I guess, it's the familiar dance of death that Teneka is now used to, as he brings up his sword to parry, duck, and weave amongst this mob and hack at them. And he's not even sure in the darkness if it's a warrior or anyone else. that he's striking out at, but he's going to strike out for a 25 and a 19.
Yeah, for sure. The AC of the mob is 16, just so you guys know, and you can just
Cool.
kind of describe how you go.
14 and 9, so 23 all up for the damage.
Yeah, you begin like cutting into warriors. You can only see backlit by like smoke, rising flames, and they're a bit close enough to smell and hear their screams of pain as you begin the slaughter in earnest. At Chulun, you see the Khan rush in to the maw of the mob. What do you do?
Oh, he'll howl, and like thump on his chest, and he's going to try and run in front of Teneka and then take the dodge action.
Nice. Karan, now you've like fired like the third volley with your men and like raise your hand or give a call and they stop, and you see your Khan brothers like charge into these like these these armed camp folk and the warriors left behind by Khan Naican. And so no, to continue firing would risk your own Khan's life. And so now must prepare to charge into the melee.
Yep, I say take down those who flee, but stay in positions, and then I run forwards with my moonstone amulet. I can run faster than before. I can even run. I can even just about keep up with Chulun. So I move 80 feet, and then I'll just ready an action whilst I'm moving forwards. If somebody looks to be about to really hurt either Teneka or Chulun or any of my siblings, I'll fire the arrow at them, but they've got to be in combat with them.
Okay, cool.
In
and
fact,
I imagine some of the other men with you like rush forward past you into the fray, or further other ones move around to the flanks to shoot down any who might flee.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your ready action. Just remind me of that if I forget it for when one of them engages Chulun or Teneka.
Even if they are running, they'll be behind me, and I still have my ready.
Okay, sure.
I've got bonus and my move, and I'm faster than them.
Okay, of course, yep. Sana, you're the next to act. You hear the wolf howl and like turn back from where the herd is streaming past you with Urslan to where like the melee now is taking place.
She wheels her horse about and urges it to a gallop back towards the camp. And when she's clear of the herd of horses, she'll answer Chulun's howl with her own. Can I get all the way back this turn?
You're 100 feet from where the fray was taking place, so it's going to take a movement of 60 and then 40 of the next movement of 60. So take your movement and action, unless you've got like a bonus dash or something.
So I'll just do the movement, and then I will shoot the bow that I have.
Okay.
If I can reasonably hit anyone without risking my brothers.
Yeah, I'm going to say on a natural 1, you will hit one of your two brothers in melee.
Okay. Let's hope it's on a 1.
Okay.
It is a crit. It is not a 1.
Excellent. Unfortunately, though, the mob doesn't take critical lingering injuries, but it will take the damage.
All right. Only 8 damage.
Okay. You fire the arrow in, and some like white-haired mother with a dagger like lashed to her hand with twine goes to stab Teneka. You shoot her to the throat, and she goes down gurgling. The defenders like crash and like wash over Teneka and Chulun now. They're going to make their multi-attack, which is going to trigger Karan's action to fire at the one who strikes at Teneka. There'll be 3 at Teneka for a 16, a miss, and a 19. So you can make your attack, Karan.
AC 16. Oh no, do I have advantage from the darkness or not?
Not now that you've like unleashed previous volleys, so like they are aware of you guys. So you don't have the surprise.
Okay, 16.
16 is the AC of the mob, so that's a hit.
And I
Does a
think
16 hit you, Teneka? And I'm assuming a 19 does.
16 is the magic number, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep. So what was your result, Caius?
16 and 16 damage.
Whew, 16 and 16, that's 32.
Oh, sorry. 16 to hit, 16 damage. It's
Oh,
not.
okay, cool. So 47. Another person goes down a wolf shaft through their chest. You're going to take checks. 9 plus 4 is 13 piercing and slashing damage from the mob as they wash over you. You'll also receive a multi-attack Chulun for 21,
Dodging.
a 17, and a crit. Oh, of course. Okay, so for the 21, it would have instead of been a crit fail. For the 17, it instead would have been higher than that. So 20 all up for the second.
Okay.
And the third one is a critical fail as well. So 2 crit fails and a hit. So you'll take piercing 6 piercing damage.
So I'll take 3 because of my stone skin.
Okay. And then the last of their multi-attack at your men, Caius. Oh, but they haven't reached them yet. So in that case, it's going to be another 3 divided between the brothers. So 2 at Chulun, which will be a miss, and then 1 at, sorry, they were at Teneka, then 1 at Chulun, which is at disadvantage, which will be, hey, you avoided a crit for 12 to hit, which will be a miss. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like a violent melee and flurry of blades. I know you're like scraped and slashed like slightly. The two of you like fare pretty well considering the odds against you at this moment. That they'll change when Kadan and his ranks swallow up these defenders. Now it goes back to Teneka and your turn in the Storm of Steel.
Yeah, the cut that slashed him forces the next swing of his sword wide, but as he spins to meet his attacker, he bow slice into him for, I think it's a 21, for 11 damage.
Okay. You hack down another of the defenders and he dies screaming, clutching at the wound. Chulun, you see the man in front of you like cut down from behind just as he was raising a woodsman's axe against you. See your brother briefly before he disappears into the slaughter. What do you do?
I'm going to punch out twice for a 17 and higher than that. For 10 damage and 7 damage, and then I'll spend a key point to bonus action dodge.
Okay. 76. Yeah, more than half of these defenders who have like banded together to try and overwhelm you have like been cut down or like shot down. Kadan, you're the next to act.
Again, I've decided if someone is knocked down, critted, or gets into trouble some way or another, the arrow's going for them, but otherwise I'm holding my shot.
Okay. Sanai.
So, can I come in on the horse, or would I have to dismount?
No, you can come in on the horse.
Okay.
You have mounted combatant, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, you can easily ride into a fight in the nighttime like this.
Okay.
In that feat.
Just checking because that gives me advantage. So I'll bonus action to rage as she howls one more time and comes into the fight. That'll be 17 to hit against the mob.
Certainly, yeah. Their AC is 16.
Okay. 4, 7, 9 damage.
9 will be 5. Okay. Yeah, you ride into the fray and send one man sprawling and then cut down another, slashing down deep across their face. The horde begins to like ripple with fear, though still is in the fight and will try and overwhelm you with number. So they have 9 attacks. I'm going to divide that between the 3 wolves in melee. So it's going to be 3 against Teneka for a miss, and a 22. And then it's going to be 3 against Chulun, which will all be at disadvantage. So a 17, a miss, and a 20 on the lowest.
17 doesn't hit.
Okay, so just one hit for you and one for the
Actually,
brother.
sorry, let me check. It does actually. Sorry, it's exactly 17 is my AC.
Okay, so you take 8 Teneka. You take 12 Chulun.
Okay.
And then 3 at Sanai, which will be a 19, a miss, and a miss. So one hit, I imagine, for a 19 to hit.
Yeah, that'll hit.
Yep. Okay. Only for 5 piercing. Someone strikes up with like a pitchfork and it gores you in the side, though it doesn't pierce anything important nor drive you from the saddle. After the mob has taken their turn, it goes back to the top and Teneka.
Can I loose an arrow as well?
Oh, certainly. Yep.
You just hear it as an arrow flies in the dark, but misses everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm right in thinking you're on the outskirts away from this Kadan, so not a target of the mob, so to speak, or the defenders.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I think
By now, I think the other men would have like rushed through, and you can see on the periphery people who are running away, getting like cut down, or things being looted, or like desperate struggles on the periphery of where Yukons are fighting. Tanaka, you're the next to act.
He'll join in with the hills as he feels more of the hot spray of blood splash over him, some of his own included, and continue madly swinging at the massive meat in front of him for definitely 2 hits, both above 20, for 9 and a 4, so 13 damage all up.
13. Okay. 28. So at this point, that reduces their multi-attack from 9 down to 6. So they are very bloodied, and so you can see like a few of the defenders now who did stand firm. Now that the numbers are like dwindling, and then they don't have this superiority that bolsters their morale, they begin to quake and flee, and are mechanically, as a result, less effective. Chulun, you're the next to act.
Oh, muted. Sorry, I attack twice. I get 115 and 127.
Cool. So one hit.
For 9. And then I use my last key point to bonus action dodge.
Nice. After Chulun, Kadan. I love it's like a snapping tortoise comes out and brutalizes and then curls back under its shell of rock.
Yeah.
So handy in a melee. Yeah, Kadan.
Kadan is still waiting.
Readying in action again.
If someone gets in trouble, when they've attacked, he'll shoot.
Okay. Sano.
Sarnai will arc the horse back around and come back through this small band of defenders. Only 7 damage.
Okay. Seems like the bravest and best of these defenders have been cut down now, and a few from the back just begin to peel off and flee into the night, realizing that it truly is lost here, despite like the overwhelming odds they had against you at the start. The surprise has carried the day, and yeah, the defenders begin to quail. I'm gonna have to roll a morale check for them because they've less than 23 hit points, but they get 15 plus -1, 14, which will be enough for a morale check of 10. So they're still there and still can prove dangerous, though, are all but defeated now. And it's defender's turn. So they need to make their 6. It's going to be 2 against each of you. For a 19 and a miss on Teneka. Another crit fail. And then a miss on you, Chulun. Then on Sanai, a crit fail and a 19 all up to hit, which will be a hit. So red dice for checks, green for Taylor. You guys both take 7 piercing damage. And it's Teneka's turn. Oh, sorry, and Kadan, that would trigger your action, actually, when that second attack was successful against Teneka.
Nobody's aware of anything.
Okay, cool. Teneka, your turn to act.
Wiping blood from his eye, takes a few errant swings out. Maybe some of the more trepidatious who are still in the fight. He's going to miss with both attacks, however.
Yeah, last defiant youth refuses to accept reality and is not cut down. Chulun, just having butchered someone, you look up to see the back vestiges of the defenders begin to peel away, and the tide surging with you against the foeman.
Okay, I will strike out twice. That's definitely 2 hits. Damage isn't great. 5 and 8, so 13 all up.
The last of the armored defenders are cut down, and the rest peel away and break at this. The mob is destroyed, and so a few badly wounded survivors begin to try and crawl away from this brief melee and skirmish, all to the sounds of people screaming and tents burning and horses galloping off in great number, and general confusion. But from here, as far as the challenge against you reduces from being people trying to kill you to how effectively and quickly can you butcher innocents before you don't have enough time to flee away safely. And as far as the challenge of the encounter goes, it's up to you. It's up to you guys what happens now.
I would say that in like actual Mongolian fashion, we like round up the people, and then we give each person a number of people they have to behead or kill to like basically turn it into sort of like production line mass killing, which I think is what Genghis Khan did.
Yeah, even despite this, you imagine like a dozen or so people would have fled away on other horses that weren't corralled or on riderless horses from this brief slaughter. But yeah, still 50 or so people divvied out, 5 or 6 people each that you must murder.
I think Chilon doesn't struggle with it. He imagines that the others might, particularly Kadan, might struggle with the sort of machine killing. So he'll get through his quickly. He's still got like stone skin, so he's able to just like smash a stone fist into a face and like cave skulls. And if he gets through his quickly, which I imagine he will like go and help someone else. He's like sanguine with the fact that this is what he has to do. He doesn't want like anyone to be struggling over much.
So stone skin, you can ball in to the massacre and begin to take your part. Teneka, one of the men under your command, is the only casualty and death from what otherwise is a sterling success in the Zamagiti camp. Whose body do you find after you sanction the massacre?
Oh. I'm trying to remember who we've got in here.
Remember no more. They are all listed in their doc.
Yep, I'm just having a...
The guys you took with you, I think, was like all of your male warriors, right? Like Geren, Aslan, Ozen, Jegu, Bayantu, Ogeli, and Korodai.
Aslan went home with the horses.
Yep.
Okay, that can't be him.
Don't let it be Jegu. Well, you choose. Or roll it.
I didn't even hear what you said there, so... Ogel?
Ogele. Who was
Ogele,
the guy who was from the
Kamini.
Kassidi?
The Cassidy was Korodai. Yeah, so you find Ogele the Kamani, a broken spear through his chest and his face specked with blood and his eyes open. But he is small price to pay for what you'll later find to be 26 horses, a dozen stolen wives from your warriors, some loot, wealth, much weapon and chain, spears and swords and arrows of Shao make.
Is there Shao money here too?
Yeah, I guess if you're systematically like massacring everyone, like families and such, you'd be able to just like search through the Gers without issue. And yeah, would find, I guess more so like ingots and jewelry of Shao make rather than actual Shao coin, like in stacks, because it'd be valued more by these people to possess it, like useful stuff rather than just coin, which has its own use. But yeah, nonetheless, much wealth you'd find from here. The majority of it Shao. The wealth of Tugan stuff that you find here is
Horses.
Yeah, camp stuff, not like conventional wealth.
Okay. So that being the case, then I guess take whatever we can, load up as many horses as we can with as much stuff as we can, and everything we cannot take with us is, if it's living, is killed. Not just killed, but like if we freshly kill a goat or something and they get here several hours later, they
Yeah.
can eat that. So we need to also like corrupt it somehow, rub muck in it or like whatever, drag it over into the shit pen for the horses or something, so that they can't eat it.
Well, for burning the tents, we can always just throw them into the flames.
Yeah, and then burn everything else.
And just to be clear, you're butchering Basutai and Naican's families?
I mean, I think if we found them, we were going to keep them.
Okay, so given the comprehensive nature of your like ambush and like methodical massacre and such, I'm going to say that eventually the family of these guys would have tried to escape. Whether they're successful or not, we're about to see. I'm going to give them each a 13% chance to escape. So the Kana did not escape. The daughter did not escape. Besutai's wife did not escape. Besutai's infant son did not escape. Besutai's infant daughter did not escape. So even though some did flee, your warriors would bring the corralled royals of the Kana by way of the Khan's wife and Khan's daughter and Khan's grandson and Khan's daughter-in-law.
So I don't think we have to necessarily mistreat these people because they're royalty. But we will definitely take them with us. I think they're good bargaining chip.
Well, that's it. It's even though I don't think we will potentially bargain, it's good to have that ace up the sleeve, as it will.
And it would be fitting for Teneka to have a Khan's daughter as his first wife.
He won't be Khan for long. Did they do things like, I mean, do people marry for alliance reasons? Surely, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, then he can't marry this woman. It won't help us in any way. Like, it'll just make it worse, if anything. Although I can't imagine that it's possible for us to make it worse now.
Yeah, this is as bad as you get. So we'll leave this session and game for now with the side of your successful caravan trailing out of the Zamagiti lands or camp, as everything you do not take is burnt or destroyed or fled. And you head back south past the oasis towards your own lands and further adventure in the next session of Hordelands.
Oh!
Oh!